Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Died but Still Became a Hero? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Yurei. F. Shoyuta curses himself, almost desperately hopping from one rooftop to another. He tries to keep his footsteps as quiet as he could, tries to avoid as much casualties and property damage as he could, at least that he could do. It's been a while since he's last encountered a life-threatening villain. Ever since Shoyuta has graduated and taken in 2 cats with Hizashi in a small shared apartment, he expected underground hero work to be overwhelming. Sure, it was overwhelming with all the uncomfortable situations he's been in, like the time he dealt with a panicking citizen for the first time, or when a kid tried to chase after him after he saved them because they were curious of a hobo-looking hero. But it wasn't overwhelming when he dealt with villains. Not really. Shoyuta has heard other underground heroes comment on how easygoing his jobs seemed to be if they were to ignore the rescuing part. He's always such routes since nearly all of the villains in his route usually end up disappearing or captured by some unknown vigilante. If he's guessing, he'd say that it's too much of a coincidence. Why would the vigilante turn up everywhere he goes, anyway? They call it a blessing, someone guarding Shoyuta. Shoyuta calls it a mystery, he wants to figure it out. Right now seems to be a different situation. It's in these rare times that he realizes how much underpowered he actually is, when the criminal he's supposed to capture seems so much more dangerous than what he could handle. They have a paralyzation quirk through eye contact, and Shoyuta does not want to risk being paralyzed one more time, not again, not when he's exhausted and when the guy's quirk could activate much faster than his erasure could. So running away is the only thing he's able to do right now. Come on, Eraserhead. I want to know what it feels like to be the villain that beats one of the top underground heroes, you know? It's gonna be so satisfying. The villain, Stupefy, cackles. It rings through the alleyways. Just look at me dash. The hero ignores whatever else he was saying, focusing on his legs that were starting to shake. The adrenaline was starting to wear out from his body, which means his mind was starting to feel disoriented too. His aim using his capture scarf began to become more inaccurate the more wrist flicks he did. He really despises the feeling he gets when it feels like he's trying to learn how to use his scarf all over again. Look at you. Feeling tired already, Eraser? Stupefy screams, lifting up a brick before timing his hit, throwing the object right next to the wall where Shoyuta lands. Unfortunately for the hero, the wall cracks and crumbles, delaying his next jump, which was just enough time for the villain to catch up to him. Finally, in a short moment of panic, Shoyuta turns around and accidentally makes eye contact with the villain. Black orbs meet glowing yellow ones. The hero's breath hitches. Right when Stupefy lets out his most unsettling laugh, it wouldn't have been unnerving if Shoyuta wasn't paralyzed. Completely vulnerable. Tons of curses passed through his head, but Shoyuta couldn't say even a single word of it. I did it. I really did it. Here you are. Stupefy cheers, his quirk keeping Shoyuta useless for 5 minutes. 5 minutes enough time for him to end the hero. Helplessly, Shoyuta can't even shut his eyes to avoid watching the villain bring out his knife, shining in the moonlight. When they find out you're dead, because of me, they'll fear me, and I'll climb to become one of the most powerful villains. That seems a little far-fetched, Shoyuta muses in a short moment of sarcasm. I guess there's no other reason to delay this, right? Stupefy teases, waving the knife in the air. You better be ready, Eraser. The villain raises the knife, adjusting its position right over where Shuta's heart was located, and said heart starts to beat faster, then it skips once. It's in this moment that he realizes how much he doesn't want to die. What about Hizashi? What will happen to him? What would he think? What about the next class he'll be teaching the next school year? What about Hitoshi, the kid he and Hizashi had just recently adopted? How would they feel? Against his will, his eyes began to water, but he still couldn't move. Shoyuta never made too many wishes, but right now, he really wished for a miracle to happen. A small breeze blows against his cheek, But it wasn't a windy night. Then, a voice speaks at the back of his mind, and it's not his. You wish for a miracle? Shocked and desperate, Shoyuta forces his eyes to move, trying to look for the figure who owned that young voice, but it won't move. Eyes on me, Eraser. Stop struggling, you can't move. Stupefy commands, a sick tone laced in his voice. It's okay, Eraser. I'll keep you safe. It whispers again. He doesn't know what to think of that, or what to think about the fact that it sounded young. Oh? Or are they? He doesn't know what to think about that moment when a gray blur suddenly phases through his vision, blocking his view of Stupefy. The villain lets out a strangled noise, shocked at the sudden interruption. Stupefy tries to speak, but the blur immediately clears, showing a small figure that's wearing something like a Halloween ghost costume, though he couldn't get too many details since the figure had their back against him. The dirty white-colored cloth draped over them faintly moving as if wind was passing by. A passing thought crosses through Shuta's head. Is this the vigilante they're talking about? A brat, playing hero? Stupefy laughs, and Shoyuta couldn't help but agree a little. It's too dangerous for an absolute kid to play hero, or vigilante. In a situation like this, even he couldn't escape Stupefy's quirk. He wants to scream, "Get away! Call help instead, please don't bring yourself into this mess," but he can't. Not when he's still paralyzed, totally defenseless. The kid seems to be oblivious by the fact that he could die any minute. Shoyuta doesn't want to go thinking that he brought a victim to die along with him. I'm gonna let you go right now, kid. I usually don't let even brats like you off the hook. But since I'm extra excited today, I'll give you a chance. Stupefy gloats, a giddy shine in his eyes. Or do you want to die playing hero too? Shoyuta really wants the quirk to wear off right now, because he won't just let a kid die in front of him. He would never want that. The kid seems like he didn't get the hint, because he's still standing there. Stupefy looks like he wants to laugh and scream at the same time. You're a really little dumb dash. Shoyuta barely registers when a sharp sound of a WHP was heard. Out of nowhere, the kid in front of him was pulling out a scythe, of all the weapons. He doesn't know how to feel if the vigilante is really into the hero Ghost Reaper role, or if the scythe was actually real, or how the kid knows how to handle a scythe. He doesn't know which of the three he would prefer the most. Shoyuta doesn't want to think about it. Despite how large the weapon was, the kid seemed to swing it around so easily, which concerns the underground hero even more. Sure, he appreciates a vigilante helping him out, but he really doesn't know what to feel when the vigilante is a kid, nearly a teenager. Stupefy yelps, deactivating his quirk on Shoyuta, letting the man leave his paralyzed state. Immediately, the hero springs into action, about to pull the kid away. Stupefy's eyes glow yellow once again, directed at the ghost kid in front of him. Shoyuta tries to call. He tries to pull, but his hand passes through the kid's arm. He seemed unfazed, still holding the sharp end of his scythe right at Stupefy's neck. Even the villain's quirk didn't work on him. What? Why is it not dash? Stupefy tries to speak again, but Ghost Kid just pushes the scythe deeper. Shoyuta immediately erases the villain's quirk, not wanting to take any chances, even if it's obvious that the child wasn't affected by his quirk. Is this his quirk, perhaps? Leave my person alone. The kid speaks for the first time in a while. My person? Shoyuta shakes his head. Whatever. I can still fight without my quirk. Stupefy tries to escape, but Shoyuta quickly wraps the man around using his binding scarf, using every last drop of his strength to keep it tight. The kid swings, enclosing the curve of his scythe around the villain from behind his neck. I don't know if you're the vigilante or whatever, kid, but I'm gonna have to bring you with me and we'll talk. Shoyuta says, finally taking a look at the kid's face. What? Shoyuta tries not to let a gasp escape through his mouth, staring at the child in front of him with building uncertainty in his guts. There's a large scar on the kid's right eye, from his forehead to his cheek. He clears his throat and tries to ignore the sudden wash of coldness settling on his body. He turns back to the villain captured in front of them. Let's get out of here, Shoyuta mumbles, tugging onto the scarf to fully lift the villain up. Whoever you are, I suggest you come with me and keep this peaceful. The kid doesn't move his scythe, but turns his head towards the hero. Innocently, he says, "I've always been with you, Eraser." Now isn't that reassuring? The underground hero turns to the kid, an incredulous and unsettled look on his face. His voice sounded less echoey, not like how it did when he spoke in his mind? Probably, since Stupefy didn't seem to hear his words earlier. Also, he sounds ridiculously young, the kid's a teen. Now that Shoyuta can see his look, the kid's wearing some ghost costume that had a hood with a witch hat attached to it, and by his neckline settles a simple green ribbon with two thin white stripes, a skull placed in the middle. The cloth had purple, orange, and yellow square-shaped patches stitched from random places. The other one looked like a yellow skull. Under it, Shoyuta has no idea, but a little bit of his chest is exposed, and they're bandaged along with the hand that's gripping on the scythe. He's wearing red-colored RBB shoes that looked a little too big for his feet. Shoyuta looks up again, meeting the kid's dull, forest green eyes, lacking the life a human's eyes should normally have. The hair matches his eye color, though a little darker, closer to black. His skin is nearly light gray, if not white, making the freckles on his cheeks more prominent. The kid looks dead in simple words. "A ghost?" Shuta's head whispers. But the look he sends him as he said those words showed nothing ominous or dangerous, so while Shoyuta should be alert, his guts are almost always right, and right now it's telling him to let this kid do whatever he wants for the time being. "If you say so," he mumbles, and the kid smiles brightly, all elegance and formality gone. Like a child who got praised by his parents. Then, all of a sudden, smoke poofs in front of his face. Shoyuta chokes in surprise, waving his other hand around to put the smoke away, and he sees a different figure in front of him. Stupefy lets out the same sound of surprise and confusion. "Kid!" Shoyuta looks at what once was the kid, who was now a literal ghost, the white cloth and all that. The size of the little thing was as tall as Shuta's capture weapon piled up around his neck. "Just what is your quirk?" It looked the same as it did when in his teenager form, but now the cloth was glowing a little from inside, and outstretches two green sashes, one shorter than the other, that looked exactly like the ribbon in his previous form. It had the same patches, but now the skull patch was replaced with a small lightning bolt. The small ghost doesn't respond, instead it floats away, heading towards the direction of the police station. Shoyuta huffs a breath, shooting a short look towards the villain before pulling his phone out to dial the police department to bring in some officers to take the villain in. He watches the small ghost stop a few meters away from him, finally noticing that he was leaving the rooftops alone. It turns around to look at the hero expectantly, staring at Shoyuta with a look that clearly asked, "Aren't you coming?" Shoyuta raises a hand up to signal for him to wait, and surprisingly, the ghost does. Once Shoyuta puts the phone down, he rips a zip tie from his pockets and quickly detains the villain from moving away, the ghost still waiting in the corner of his eye. Then he starts hopping on the rooftops all over again, catching up with the little thing. The ghost does a little satisfied wiggle before turning around to continue floating away. Shoyuta finds it oddly endearing. It doesn't take too long until they leave Shuta's route and reach the police department. The underground hero takes note of how the police don't seem to be noticing the small ghost floating just beside him, occasionally peeking over some police officers' shoulders, curious of the files they're holding, before lingering on Sansa, who doesn't seem to be doing anything interesting, so Shoyuta assumes the kid likes cats in general. Fantastic, really. The said officer turns his head and meets the hero's eyes. Eraser head. He greets. Shoyuta just nods, a little distracted at the ghost spinning on the cat's head. "Is Tsukachi available?" Shoyuta asks. "Yep, on his desk. As usual." "Is it a new case?" Sansa asks. "No, it's about the vigilante that's been following me." He answers, nodding again before turning away, hoping the ghost would follow him. He lets out a huff when he feels a breeze against his arm, and in front of him the ghost floats, still in the tiny ghost form. He's done questioning everything at his point. When they arrive at Tsukachi's desk, the detective is already sitting there, eyes focused on the screen in front of him, typing a few words or more. He sees Shoyuta and hums as a greeting. The underground hero accepts it. Shoyuta notices that no one could really see the ghost just settled on the detective's desk, watching him work as he stares at the screen in wonder, as much wonder as you can see in black cartoonish eyes, like Mirio's. Are you busy? Shoyuta asks. Just about to finish this file. Do you need anything? Tsukachi asks, clicking his mouse a few times, before lifting his gaze from the monitor again. Well, Shoyuta lets out, staring at the ghost on the desk. It stares right back at him, wiggling a bit before floating towards the ground. Tsukachi stares in confused anticipation, but Shoyuta ignores him, focusing on the ghost as the sound of whirling wind blows, accompanied with the ghost's transformation. It's nothing much, the form dissolving into fog before reforming itself into how Shoyuta first met him, a teenager. The kid really needs another name. Looks at him with wide eyes and a wide smile, nodding his head affirmingly. Shoyuta sighs. The vigilante finally showed himself to me during my encounter with Stupefy. I'd like you to meet him. Tsukachi straightens up a little. What do you mean? How did it happen? Exactly how I said it. He stood in front of me to block me from the villain. He's here right now. It's better to ask him because even I have questions. He explains. Before the detective could ask exactly where the kid was, the kid's teenage form blurs, along with it erupts some green lightning, zapping from here and there. Tsukachi flinches on his seat, causing Shoyuta to send him a curious glance before he looks at the kid again. His blurred form clears, but this time he seems less transparent, more tangible, and his eyes were glowing. It doesn't take a lot to figure that this could be what the kid looks like when the world sees him. He turns to the detective, an innocent yet blank look on his face. Softly he speaks. Hello, detective. Eraser. Naomasa slowly calls, but one look at the underground hero tells him that even he has no idea what to do starting right now. Oh well, he's a detective, he can just do what he usually does. He just has to avoid feeling too unsettled by the kid's skin color, or the creepy way his eyes had a faint glow even with the light in the room. It's probably brighter in the dark. Tries not to shiver at the image. Okay, kid, did you come here by your own will? He starts. Noting the slightly childish costume of a Halloween ghost the teen was wearing, it gave him weird feelings. It's not even Halloween. The school year is ending in a few months before their summer break. That's far from Halloween. I did. Comes the soft response of the teen. Naomasa internally relaxes at that. It's rare to get people who are willing and soft-spoken when you're trying to question them. What's your name? He asks next. The teen frowns a little, but it doesn't look defensive, just pensive. I don't remember my name. I don't think I have one. Naomasa's eyebrows furrow. In the corner, he can see Aizawa shift in confusion and curiosity. Is this child abandoned on the streets? Surely he had documents of his BRDH from the hospitals around here. Well, I bet we can search for your BRDH files later so that we could confirm your identity and so on, yeah? That'd be great, please. The kid smiles softly, all clouds and feathers, and both Naomasa and Aizawa feel like there's a little more to that expression. The clouds seemed like they were drizzling rain. Gloomy. With a newfound determination to figure this kid out, Naomasa straightens up and asks, would it be all right to call you something else for the meantime? The boy nods, considering his suggestion. Sure, if you have any ideas. He smiles kindly and, dare they say, a little excited. Let's call you Yurei, since you seem to be very into the cosplay. Aizawa blandly says. The kid doesn't seem too bothered by it though. Instead he smiles even more brightly at the name. How ironic, since he looked absolutely dead. Unsettling. He seemed happy though, so maybe they're all right so far. You named me my human. Then he somberly continues in a softer tone, but even if it's fun to wear, it's not just a cosplay. Aizawa lets out a confused and surprised noise at the nickname, his human, but Naomasa focuses on the second part of his words. What do you mean, it's not just a costume? It's a symbol, a representation, perhaps? To emphasize what I am. Silently, the kid Yurei turns to Naomasa, something dark in his ironically glowing eyes. What once had a bright look now held something melancholic. This is not a quirk, detective. Both Aizawa's and Naomasa's eyes comically widen, as if they've made so many realizations and connected a huge amount of dots, which they have, and the look of purely knowing on Yurei's face confirms it all. Naomasa chokes out, Yurei. You're actually a ghost? You're dead. Yurei simply smiles gently, sadly, so much emotion on his face but his eyes were so dull. You know I tell only the truth, detective. Perhaps I could explain some more? It's not much, really. Aizawa realizes that Yurei's switching back to his formal speech, which certainly clarifies that he's serious. This is real, a ghost saved him and has been tailing him for how long, and he's just finding out now. Is this why villains in his route disappear? Why sometimes, there's a blowing wind that directs him towards a victim in need? Unaware, or probably aware, of the two other men's dumbfounded silence, Yurei continues speaking. You have named me Yurei. I am presumably 14 years old if I were still alive. I died when I was 5, and I do not remember anything else from when I was alive. Which means I do not remember who I've known and who have known me. I do not remember how, where, and why I passed. I do not know why I am the only ghost roaming around, and I do not have anything I want to accomplish. I've been following Aizawa Shoyuta since he has saved and taken in the little kitten I used to take care of, and eventually I had also taken a liking to him. Yurei pauses. He is now my person, my human. I swore to myself that I shall never show myself to him, but should the time ever come where his life is in serious danger, I would reveal myself and start guiding him not just as the unknown spirit I used to be, but as an invisible companion he could count on. Finishing his speech, knowing all of his statements had rang true in the detective's mind, Yurei smiles at the both of them, the hint of something akin to mischief making his eyes glow just a little brighter than it previously did. And here we are. Don't worry, after all, I'm already dead. You have nothing to worry about with me. Aizawa's eyes land from Yurei to Naomasa, silently begging for denial, or a confirmation. He doesn't know which one he wanted to hear more. But it didn't matter, because Naomasa looked at Yurei like he'd seen a ghost, and no other confirmation was needed to prove Yurei's words were the truth. Naomasa slowly inhales. He's not lying. It's all true. Shoyuta tiredly drags himself from the fire escape staircase, trudging over to the window of his shared apartment with Hizashi. Yurei quietly floats from behind him, staring at him with those black orbs. He's in his little ghost form again. It looks like a balloon floating by itself beside the underground hero. Shoyuta figured Yurei couldn't speak when he's in that form, so he doesn't expect any answer when he speaks. You're gonna have to show yourself to Hizashi when he comes home, are we clear? Yurei does an affirming wiggle, his ribbon stashes swaying along the motion. Then he poofs into his teenager form before responding properly. Of course, Shoyuta. Shoyuta feels a little weird with the kid using his first name, but it's not that bad. Perhaps it's understandable since he's been trailing him ever since. Ever since when? The underground hero simply asks the question as they slide through the window, but all Yurei says is, let's wait for Hizashi before I answer that. And didn't he say he's been following Shoyuta ever since he's taken in the kitten Yurei used to take care of? Which kitten? It's been years since he and Hizashi took in the rascals, but does that mean their cats could see Yurei, too? Is that why they just stare at the empty space from random times? Shoyuta, calm down, I said questions later. Yurei interrupts his internal rambling. He acts like a child, looks like a teen, but speaks like someone who's seen everything when he goes formal. Isn't Yurei just 14? That doesn't mean I can just stop them from coming, problem child. Shoyuta grumbles. Yurei rolls his eyes. Then ignore them? He says it like it's the easiest thing ever. It isn't. Shoyuta settles on ignoring the ghost as he pulls out his yellow sleeping bag, from where no one would know except for him. He quickly slips inside, placing himself beside the couch, still ignoring how Yurei's floating by his head, staring at him silently. Contemplating. Do we tell So-chan too? I want to be his friend, for real now, Yurei asks, sitting down on the carpet by his head before poking said head. He needs a friend. Wants one, especially someone his age. Yurei, you're literally dead, a ghost. I don't think I want to know how he'll feel about a ghost friend. But I'm still a friend. Shoyuta can hear the pout on Yurei's voice. I can be corporeal, like a human. He should still know the truth though. When the hero stays silent, Yurei begins to poke his head even more, even blowing the familiar breeze Shoyuta feels on rooftops where the nights aren't supposed to be windy. Come and Shoyuta. It's better than you and Hizashi trying to keep me a secret whenever he visits, which is every day by the way. I don't know how he'll handle talking to a dead person, Yurei. Then let's find out. Shoyuta groans, it's not that easy. Yurei huffs, crossing his arms. Whatever, you hobo. What's not easy? Shoyuta shoots up from his position, ignoring the startled yelp from Yurei as he stares at the doorstep. There stands his husband, Hizashi, wearing his casual outfit and carrying plastic bag in his hand, the other holding on the doorknob. Who were you talking to, Sho? Hizashi asks, confused and concerned. Great, now his husband thinks he's going crazy. Oh well, Yurei looks at the hero. Should I just? Shoyuta sighs, holding a hand up for Yurei to wait. It must look weird to Hizashi, watching his husband communicate with air. So Yurei can also control who can hear him? Zashi, Shoyuta breathes out. You're gonna have to meet someone. Oh. Hizashi perks up, proceeding to slip his shoes off before walking to the living room, dropping the plastic bag on the table. That's cool, but why do you sound so pooped about it? Yurei suddenly speaks, because he's always pooped. Hizashi accidentally activates his quirk when he shrieks, Shoyuta erasing the quirk to prevent it from activating again, then he glares at Yurei. Who are you? Hizashi cries, still calming his heart down from the sudden scare. Shoyuta finds it slightly amusing. That's him dash. I'm Yurei, I don't know my real name so Shoyuta named me. You're Yamada Hizashi, also known as Present Mike. Nice to meet you. I'm a ghost. He rambles, small green lightning zapping from his excitement. To see another hero or to finally be seen, Shoyuta doesn't know, but it saddens him a little when he realizes how long Yurei must have been alone, watching the world go around him without anything or anyone even knowing he's just there. He doesn't have any more time to dwell on it though, because Hizashi suddenly lets out a small squeak before his eyes roll back, then he passes out. I didn't know he would pass out. Yurei panics, looking at Aizawa then back to the unconscious hero in his arms. Shoyuta, I've never made anyone faint how dash. Calm down, he'll wake up, Shoyuta sighs. We'll just have to wait. Help me out. Right, yeah, okay. Yurei mumbles before letting himself become tangible, arms reaching out to lift Hizashi's legs and carry him on the couch. Shoyuta feels a touch of Yurei's fingers, and he shivers at how cold they felt. A short silence falls between the two as they stare at Hizashi for a little bit, then Shoyuta decides to let at least one question slip. Why didn't you show yourself to me years ago? You could have done this sooner. Yurei looks at him as if Shoyuta just asked something dumb, though he still looked a little sheepish about it. Shoyuta, why would I just show that to a human I barely know? I just stayed with you for Coco or Brick, that's still a dumb name by the way, and thought that if you didn't take care of her properly I would have just taken her back and disappear. Then you turned out to actually be a good hobo, so I just told myself I'd protect you from everything, 'cause you're a great person and a great hero and dash. Yurei suddenly stops talking, looking at anywhere but Shoyuta, almost like he's embarrassed of admitting it. And it's like about Sochan, I was scared you'd push me away if you thought I was creepy or scary or something, so I decided that I'll just reveal myself when you're almost dying and that happened so, but you didn't actually push me away even though you were wary of me and now I feel less scared about revealing myself to Sochan and Hizashi, 'cause they trust you and you're tolerating me so if you tolerate me and they trust you then they'll probably tolerate me too? Shoyuta stares at the ghost in front of him for a few moments. Yurei's hunched in over himself, playing with his hands as he waits for his response. He lets himself think carefully of the ghost's words, because Yurei has a point, if Hizashi and Hitoshi don't trust him, they trust Shoyuta, and they're already as involved as he was, so together the three of them would have to try and figure out Yurei's case. If Tsukachi ever opens one when he finds something about Yurei's identity. A grumble is heard from between them and they both turn to see it's Hizashi, finally coming back to consciousness. The blonde slowly opens his eyes before he stares at Shoyuta, then he stares at Yurei. The ghost simply smiles gingerly, trying not to startle the voice hero all over again. Hizashi blinks. Wait, so I wasn't dreaming. Hisashi whispers, eyes slowly becoming wider. Shoyuta snorts. Shoyuta, this isn't funny. Are you saying there's a ghost in our apartment? We're haunted? Hisashi shoots up from his position. Yurei looks concerned. Meet Yurei. Shoyuta tiredly says, ignoring all of his questions. I swear I'm not a bad person, Hisashi. Yamada? I can explain. If I wanted to eat you then I could have done so years ago, but here you are, alive and safe. Yurei says. You can eat humans? Shoyuta looks at the ghost, a little horrified. Yurei quickly shakes his hands in front of him, shaking his head along with them. No. I never even considered that, it's just an example. Years ago? Hisashi asks, now a little confused. If you tried to listen then we could have been explaining this already. Shoyuta says. Well, forgive me if I'm a little scared, 'cause this is my first time seeing a ghost. Is he the only one? So, sorry if I seem scary to you. Yurei shrinks even further. Shoyuta shoots a glare at his husband, who's currently stammering over and unsure of what to do. Before the underground hero could reassure the ghost, it poofs. Hisashi squeaks, then Yurei's in his tiny ghost form again. This is not what a scary ghost looks like at all. Yurei floats behind the armrest, hiding himself from the two heroes. Kid, Hisashi's just processing, he's not scared. I know you won't hurt us. Shoyuta tries to coax the boy while Hisashi stays silent, watching the interaction with wonder, his wariness lessening a little once his mind starts to clear. The ghost seems to be staring at him, and Shoyuta realizes that Yurei wants Hisashi to be the one to confirm it. He stares at the blonde, watching his face turn from scared to confused, then soften a little. Oh well, at least he doesn't have to tell Hisashi that the harmless little thing is, well, harmless. Oh my god. Little listener? It's okay, I think I can listen now. I'm sorry about that. If Sho trusts you then there's no reason to be wary now, right? The living room stills in silence, both of the humans waiting for the little ghost to leave from his hiding spot. Upon seeing Hisashi's understanding eyes, Yurei slowly floats away from the armrest and back on the couch. It floats right in front of Hisashi, slowly and carefully, then bumps his head gently on the voice hero's forehead. Shoyuta hides a small smile when he watches Hisashi shiver and melt, completely taken aback from the ghost's gentleness. Oh no, why did I feel scared in the first place? You're the cutest little thing I've ever seen, Hisashi softly coos, cupping the ghost with his hands. Yurei does a small little wiggle, a little shy, and the hero turns to Shoyuta with fresh tears in his eyes. Sho, did you see that? He wiggled. He can't communicate when he's in that form, so he does that if he's happy, I guess. Confirming Shuta's words, Yurei does another wiggle. Do you feel comfortable enough to change back to a teenager, Yurei? Yurei answers by floating down to the carpet before his form blurs like a fog. Green lightning erupts from the smoke as it turns bigger, and when it clears, there once again stands Yurei's teenager form. He still seems a little shy, but the awe in Hisashi's eyes makes him smile. Okay, now that we're done with that dash. Holy shit, I knew it. Hisashi activates his quirk again, muffling out Yurei's yelp. Weren't ghosts supposed to be the ones scaring people? Maybe Yurei's too kind for that. Shoyuta instinctively activates Erasure and directs it at the intruder, who suspiciously turns out to be a certain purple-haired boy clad in his middle school uniform with a phone out in display. I knew I saw you before. You were talking to Brick in the kitchen once and you disappeared right when I called her. I knew this place was haunted. So-chan? I mean Shinso. Yurei stutters, looking at the two other heroes, confused of the teen's reaction. Hitoshi raises an eyebrow at the nickname. Can we please go on without getting interrupted? Hitoshi, you don't seem too shocked about this. Shoyuta says, amused. Hisashi gasps. You knew? I'm not really shocked, but no, I didn't know. It's just dash, Hitoshi points at Yurei. He's the reason why Brick meows at the wall. He's also the reason why I hear whispers every time I ramble to myself. I thought I was going crazy. Oh. Yurei blushes, which is weirdly green instead of red or pink. I guess I get carried away and blow my cover sometimes. This is a mess, Shoyuta interrupts. Hitoshi, sit down and we'll finally talk about why he's here and what's gonna happen from now on. We're keeping a ghost? Cool. More like I'm keeping the three of you, Yurei mumbles, the shyness starting to fade away once more. No one's keeping anybody. We're all independent people. Hisashi chides gently. Except I'm actually dead, I don't think I count as a person. Yurei says. Everyone blatantly ignores Shoyuta as he quietly groans with a hand on his face, and Hitoshi speaks. Wait, is it okay to ask how you died? Is this a quirk? I don't think I have an answer for that, because I don't remember, but I could tell you this isn't a quirk. Or it might be one that activates after death, since I've never met any other like me. Yurei answers. I really don't like speaking with formality like how I did with Tsukachi earlier. I should probably drop that. You should. Shoyuta deadpans. Well, Yurei inhales. Guess we're gonna do this again, huh? Then he smiles. Hitoshi and Hisashi had tried to settle themselves as they wait for the ghost to start talking. Actually, wait, do you dash? Hitoshi tries to speak, but is immediately cut off by Yurei. Questions later, Sochin. The two heroes watch in amusement as Hitoshi turns pink at the nickname before he nods his head silently. Yurei simply smiles softly, sitting back on the armrest before speaking. Where do I start? I guess I'll tell you I'm Yurei, and that's not my real name, 'cause I don't remember it at all. I do remember that I died when I was 5. Hisashi and Hitoshi seem mildly horrified at that part. And I was probably 7 when I've been trailing around heroes before I met Coco. Or Brick, but I still call her Coco. Anyway, I met her in an alley while I was just a wandering soul. I started to take care of her until Shoyuta took her in. That was probably when they were a few years into hero work, and I wasn't actually planning to stay with Shoyuta and Hisashi until I saw how kind they were to Coco. So you could say you started to grow on me. Yurei pauses to gather his thoughts, because ghosts don't really need to take a breather, then he continues. Then you met Sochan when he was around 11, which means I was also 11, and I noticed how he seemed to get bruises after Shoyuta met him, so I kind of followed him? Unbeknownst to the two heroes, Hitoshi's eyes widen at the discovery, looking like he just realized something big, although he still decides to stay silent. Yeah, and then I saw his bullies planning to ambush him on his way home, so I may or may not have scared them? Yurei scratches the back of his neck. That's why nobody bothered me for the rest of the school year. And the years after that. Hitoshi says, mouthing up. Yurei smiles brightly at him. Yeah. I also did it every start of the school year so they could leave you alone. I'm so glad it worked. Wait, so that means you know my quirk? Hitoshi suddenly stops talking, staring at Yurei with confusion in his eyes. But, listen, Sochan, Yurei rolls his eyes, they sek, and quirks are only villainous if you use it to do villainy things, and you don't, so your quirk isn't villainous. He says it like he's teaching a kid the color red, which he kinda seems like it. Aizawa does an approving little nod while Hisashi lets out a hum of agreement. Even a ghost gets it. The voice hero exclaims. Yeah, I get it alright, but anyway, continue please? Hitoshi shyly dismisses. Oh right. Then after that I told myself I'd just show myself when Shuta's nearly dying, so here we are. Hisashi yelps in confusion and worry while Aizawa groans at the poorly explained situation. Hitoshi just stares at his dad with an incredulous look. Wait, I meant I was gonna do that to save him and eventually reveal myself, because I'd rather risk him pushing me away after seeing how creepy I was than risk him dying. So, yeah, he trails off to silence, and then it continues when no one tries to say anything. Yurei chuckles awkwardly, waving his hands around. It's funny how this whole thing is one-sided, but it is what it is, you know. Hisashi coos, shaking his head. I know, you small bean. I never knew we've had a secret family member ever since we took Brick in. It was a package deal all along. This is a lot to take in. But I've literally seen a person with chicken wings as hands, so a ghost is kinda part of the norm, I guess. Hitoshi mumbles to himself, but he's still staring at Yurei as if he fought the whole world for him. And you're cool, so I'm calling you Ray now, it just seems right. You're taking this well. Yurei stares at Hisashi and Hitoshi with surprise, then he turns to Shoyuta. Shoyuta, isn't Tsukachi gonna try and look for my identity? He's already doing it, presumably, Shoyuta nods. He'll message when he finds something, though I'll have to go there myself because it's risky to share things through the phone, yeah. Yurei copies, giggling. Ray, is it possible to touch you? Hitoshi asks. Can I hug you or something? But I'm cold. Yurei pouts. Hisashi and Shoyuta watches the interaction with interest. Hitoshi rolls his eyes. Who cares? I'm still asking if you can turn corporeal. Yeah I can. Yurei answers. In a moment, his figure blurs just a little bit, a few green lightning here and there before he clears again, and now he's in his tangible form. Almost immediately, Hitoshi puts an arm around Yurei's shoulders, delighted at how the ghost seemed a few inches smaller than him. What's the point of acting cautious if he's been our self-proclaimed protector for years? Hisashi nods his head. He has a point, Sho. I'm gonna teach him memes. Hitoshi smirks. Please don't. Shoyuta groans. I've been in this household for years, I know memes. Yurei smiles cheekily. Hitoshi absolutely brightens at his words. Even better. Now, Naomasa surely likes having his tasks done by the end of the day, and if he can't finish one of them, then he'll prioritize them on the next, if possible. Currently, he's done everything he needed to do. It won't be soon until another case is handed to him, after all, crime never ends, as sad as that sounds. He's finished his nth cup of coffee and has finally decided to work on the issue that's been plaguing his mind the most, Yurei, the ghost. Naomasa still remembers the whole attire and the facial features of said ghost, and he still remembers the shiver he felt when his eyes landed on the huge scar on Yurei's right eye. It bothered him, seeing a scar that brought unsettling images placed on a teenager's face. And the fact that Yurei died when he was 5, as much as Naomasa does not want to assume things, he could tell that the scar was less likely from an accident. Firstly, Naomasa decides to search for green-haired citizens living in Japan. Green-haired people aren't common, so he should have a limited and few choices. He sees multiple males and females with green hair, and he lessens it to the ages 1. There, the list decreases in a huge amount, showing at least 70 and more kids, dead and alive, so he should probably still see Yurei filed among them. The detective then decides to click on Muzutafu, plus the other cities near the prefecture. The list decreases to a number of 8 kids. Naomasa reads each file, then he blinks, before rereading every child's name over and over again, examining each face for multiple times. He makes sure that it's still the dead and alive list, and looks again. He reads each name one more time. Then another. Naomasa looks at each face one more time. And another. Still, none of them looked like Yurei. Hitoshi is having the time of his life. I'm just saying. Hitoshi rolls his eyes, ignoring Shuta's embarrassed glare and Hisashi's sputtering. If Ray's been following Dad, then that means he also heard them dash. I never heard them. Yurei cries, shaking his head rapidly, cheeks green. I know when to leave them alone. How many times did you leave them alone then? Hitoshi asks the ghost, smirking at him. Also, I never actually mentioned anything. Sochan, Yurei whines, no. I'm still not answering that. Yup, he really is having the time of his life. You'd think a ghost would make Hitoshi feel awkward and cautious, but even they would have never expected him to take everything so lightly. Can you blame him, though? Yurei is a cute ghost, probably the outcome of passing at such a young age, a fact that Hitoshi tries to ignore, but at the same time acknowledges it in a way, and also goes against every word on the textbook when it comes to them, aside from, well, being dead and looking dead. Even then, it's just kind of a D move to act like Yurei's dead when he's obviously there. He had still been someone alive, after all. Which means Yurei acts like he's someone alive, and so they try to go along with it for now. Hitoshi, shut the F up please. Shoyuta curses, his voice suspiciously small. The teen just laughs maniacally, though he doesn't tease them any further, which the two heroes are most thankful for. This is also why Hitoshi tries to avert their attention from the more serious parts of the situation. Yes, he still has questions, tons of them, but he'll ask them at the right time. Can we ask Yurei a different question? Hisashi tries to speak. Hey listener, do you have a specific time when you follow each one of us? Yurei hums, willing his green. They still have no idea why it's green. It's another question in Hitoshi's so-called Yurei Q&A cheeks to turn back to gray. Not really. Since your schedules are mostly random, ISWCH from person to person. These days though, since Shoyuta just expelled his whole class, I decided to only follow him when he's on patrol. Which means I still check up on him, but I mostly SWCH from Hisashi to Sochan, though I stick to Sochan more to keep the bullies away because I know Hisashi can handle himself at Yui and at the radio station. Is it not tiring? Shoyuta asks. I'm dead, remember? Yurei chuckles. I don't get tired. Maybe it's also a little unnerving to be reminded that someone like Yurei is actually dead, even if they do know it. It makes them wonder if they would have met him if he were still alive. Maybe then he and Hitoshi might have been friends if Yurei also planned on attending to Yui. Surely Yurei also dreamed of being a hero, right? Shoyuta and Hisashi end up sharing looks, clearly saying that they were thinking of the same thing. Hitoshi looks more somber now, the mischievous smirk on his face long gone as he seems to be in deep thought. Yurei notices the change in the mood, and now he's confused. Did I say something wrong? He asks softly. Hitoshi neither confirms nor denies the question. How do you exactly feel about being? You know. He asks, waving his hands around limply. Oh. Yurei perks up. Well, I don't really know, honestly. I woke up like this in my original form, which I don't really want to show to you, and I didn't know anything and I had to figure everything out as a ghost. So, I guess I'm kinda curious of how my 5 years of life was like, 'cause why wouldn't I? But at the same time I'm fine with how things are right now. Like, if I meet my mom right now, for example, I may or may not remember anything, but since that's not yet happening then so far I'm indifferent to it. Oh, I'm rambling again, but you get my point. That seems to ease the family down for a bit, and Shoyuta raises an eyebrow when he asks. Are you implying that it's possible for you to remember things when you see them? Like a trigger? Yurei nods. Though it's clearly obvious that I haven't gained any of my memories right now. I've thought about it a lot when I used to wander around anywhere. The trigger could be a place or a person, or they couldn't be triggered at all, we never know. Even if we can't trigger them, I'd still like to know what happened to me if I were you. Hitoshi shrugs. When you first appeared as a ghost, did you know where you were? We could start there. Hisashi suggests. At his words, Yurei's eyes widen, and if he was alive they would have been sparkling. His whole form glows in realization along with little zaps of lightning. All three of the humans inch away in caution, causing Yurei to smile apologetically. Oops, I forgot that happens. Wait, let me change back to a soul so they won't affect you. Yurei says. Without waiting for their response, his figure blurs and turns to fog before clearing once more, but he's now more transparent than a few moments ago. Weren't you in your soul form when you rescued me? I remember not being able to touch you, but your scythe seemed tangible. Shoyuta asks. Hold on, hold. Hitoshi raises up a hand. You have a what? A scythe, Toshi. Hisashi gently repeats. Then, his eyes widen before turning to Yurei. You have a scythe? Yurei lets out a loud giggle. What about it? I'd show you, but it's gonna get cramped in here. Also, why do you act like I have such a weird weapon? Doesn't Nemi-chan have a WHP? That's because we did react the same way when she revealed her weapon, but that's not the point, Hisashi mutters. Why does she have a cute nickname? I want one too. Yurei squeaks, the green blush creeping up on his cheeks again. Can I call you Hai-chan then? Hisashi just outright cries at the question, startling both Hitoshi and Shoyuta, but they really don't find themselves surprised anymore. The voice hero tries to hug Yurei, forgetting that the ghost wasn't tangible at the moment, so he lets out a sound of shock and confusion when his hands go through the teen's figure. Yurei just ends up laughing again. That seems a bit different from his name, Hitoshi hums. But he accepts anything from cute things, I guess. We're getting distracted. Shoyuta grumbles. Oh right. Yurei says, poking Hisashi's cheek, even if his finger goes through said man's cheek and ends up making it a cold spot instead. Hisashi appreciates it all the same, anyway. Actually, about that, it's harder to make myself tangible while in my soul form, so I avoid it most of the time and turn to my, human form. If I want to make myself tangible, it's to spend less effort trying to maintain being a soul and being touchable at the same time. It's also way much easier to control who could see and hear me though, so that one's not really a problem for some reason. Nothing makes sense with you at all, Hitoshi muses. That's a compliment, by the way. I really don't see how it is, but thanks, So-chan. Yurei smiles widely. A random meow suddenly echoes in the hallway, pausing the conversation for a moment. Yurei gasps, definitely recognizing that voice meow, and turns around right when Brick, or Coco, in Yurei's place, pads into the living room, with their second cat Luna walking behind her. Coco baby. A baby calling another baby? So weird. Hello love. Yurei coos, putting a hand on the cat's head. It doesn't do anything more than leave a cold spot on Brick's head, but the cat purrs, obviously content with the feeling. Will my phone capture him? Does that work? Hisashi whispers, whipping his phone out to open the app. He gawks when Yurei doesn't appear on the screen, not a trace of the ghost at all. This is so unfair, Sho. Do you see this? I see it, Hisashi. Shoyuta grunts, seeming dissatisfied with the result as well. He can't even say they were getting distracted again, because honestly he'd rather watch this interaction than return to the matter at hand that makes him feel tired just when he's thinking about it. Unfortunately, someone still has to bring the subject back up, because it's almost but crack in the morning and they need sleep. Even the ones who rarely do. I really don't want to ruin the moment because that's just cute, but Rei-chan, can I call you that? I think you were gonna tell us about the place you woke up in. Oh, Rei-chan is so cute. Yurei cheers. But yeah, sorry I get distracted a lot. Yurei lifts his hand up from Brick's head, but settles beside the cat, Luna rubbing herself on his other thigh to feel the coldness from the ghost. But anyway, about the place I woke up in, it was somewhere that looked like dash. A sudden ring interrupts Yurei. Everyone immediately recognizes it as Shuta's ringtone. Hitoshi raises an eyebrow at his dad's phone. What, we're getting cliffhangers in real life now? Shut, Hitoshi. Shoyuta rolls his eyes before picking up the phone from the table. It's Tsukachi, he might have some info. Oh, that quick. Yurei glows again, excited. Do we have to go now? Calm down, problem child, let me talk to him first. Shoyuta says as he taps the call button, pressing the device to his ear. While the underground hero was on the phone, Hisashi decided to bring the once-forgotten plastic bag up from the living room to the kitchen, taking a mental note to bring the things out later on after they're done talking. He checks the time, winces when the phone screen shows numbers later than 2 in the morning, but it's just one night, and it's a Sunday tomorrow today? Anyway, so it should be fine. It doesn't take too long for the blonde to return to the living room where Hitoshi and Yurei had decided to bond on the floor, one cat each on their laps. Yurei turned tangible again, and he's enjoying the feeling of Brick's fur against his hand, if to show by the sweet smile on his face. Hisashi wonders if the camera would capture the ghost now that he's in his tangible form, so he WHPs his phone out again, and jumps in happiness when the camera does include the ghost in, although he looks a little transparent, and his eyes are glowing green. In the picture, Hitoshi's silently observing the ghost beside him, a look filled with awe and curiosity. It's not every day where you meet a ghost, a good one at that, after all. Hisashi smiles at the two boys, sitting on the couch beside Shoyuta as he ruffles Hitoshi's hair, snapping the insomniac out of his thoughts. I thought we agreed that sharing info through mobiles is dangerous. Shoyuta mumbles against the phone, but the apartment's quiet, so they all hear his words anyway. A second passes until they hear Shuta's next words. What are you talking about? Why did you call me then? His voice catches their attention even more, because it sounded confused, and a little deadpan. Shoyuta perks up then. What do you mean you didn't find anything? What about the whole entirety of Japan? Nothing. Then he pauses, before his other hand reaches out to drag it down on his face. Hizashi gently grabs it, massaging his fingers to try and relax the hero, although he has his own worried look on his face. It doesn't really work, but Shoyuta accepts the offer gratefully. This is more serious than I thought. Shoyuta mumbles to himself, shooting a glance towards Yurei. The ghost was looking at him with wide eyes, confused and concerned. Hitoshi pats the boy's cheek, whispering at him not to worry, but even he was feeling suspicious about the ideas implied through the call. You can just come here tomorrow for the questioning, the whole family already knows everything about the case. Shoyuta shrugs, even if he knew Tsukachi wouldn't see. In the afternoon, please. We need some shut-eye. I honestly don't. Hitoshi mumbles, but he spares a look at Hizashi and sees the unusual dark circles on his eyes, and it's during these times when he feels a little thankful that he has insomnia. I don't sleep either, Yurei hums. But you guys need it. I basically can't, not when I want to. Hitoshi chuckles a little bitterly. I know, So-chan, you always surprise me when you walk into the kitchen when I play with Coco. At 4 in the morning. Yurei chuckles. At least I finally know the reason why Brick spins around a certain spot in the kitchen. I really thought she was doing some ritual or whatever. Hitoshi huffs. When Yurei laughs, it's the same time Aizawa ends the call on the phone, turning to the ghost with a contemplating look on his face. Is everything all right, Sho? Hizashi asks. Tsukachi's coming here later on to ask some questions again. I suggest we talk about everything you know with him tomorrow, then, Shoyuta tiredly explains. Right now we sleep. We all need it. Do you have anything to do while we're asleep? He continues, shooting a look at Hitoshi before looking at Yurei, beginning to stand up to head towards his and Hizashi's shared room. I wander around the night, since it's kinda creepy to just watch you all sleep. And Coco ignores me after she's satisfied with the pats. Yurei shrugs. Hitoshi snorts. That definitely sounds like something she'd do. Are you saying you patrol at night? Shoyuta asks. Yurei nods quickly with a reassuring smile on his face. If you could call it that, it's not like I'm in any danger, anyway. There are only a few crimes when everyone's asleep, so it's more on just me floating around. The underground hero nods in approval, before he sighs. Please look after yourself, we can't have you disappearing now, can we? Stay safe, little listener. Hizashi smiles. I don't care that you're dead, come back here in one piece at 5, I'll be awake then. Hitoshi squints his eyes at the ghost, before patting the boy's head. It's cold, but his hair's fluffy like he imagined. Yurei giggles in glee, nodding his head. His figure blurs before turning more transparent again, phasing through the three humans along with Brick and Luna, causing everyone to shiver. Of course I will. Good night, So-chan, Hai-chan, Sho-chan. He's oblivious to Hizashi's coos along with Hitoshi's and Shuta's soft looks as he proceeds to pet Luna and Brick for the last time. Bye-bye, babies. He gently greets. In a split second he disappears, leaving behind a spot of fog and green lightning, and in a few moments it also disappears, as if Yurei was never there at all. Hizashi squeals before poking his husband's cheek. He called you Sho-chan. He called you Sho-chan. Hitoshi cackles when Shoyuta simply rolls his eyes, although he does seem a little pinker than usual. I'm tired, Shoyuta grumbles to himself before walking towards the bedroom. Sleep well, Dad, Pops. Hitoshi quietly greets before entering his own room, not shutting the door until he hears Hizashi's greeting back. Yeah, well, maybe they're acting too natural considering what's happening, but they have a feeling that they really don't have any other choice here. Yurei definitely took all of them in, they just never knew. The ghost floats freely along the wind, aimlessly looking around and focusing on any noise that could indicate danger. Yurei reflects on the previous moments before this, and he finds himself smiling in relief and happiness. His eyes burn, he probably would have been crying if ghosts could weep. Everything that just happened still feels so surreal. Images of Hizashi's smile, Hitoshi's smirk, and Shuda's unbelievably deadpan but fond look flashes through Yurei's mind. The family he's been looking after had actually accepted him. Sure, they were shocked at first aside from Hitoshi, but Yurei's not complaining, but they eventually decided to trust him and even went so far as to let him give them their own nicknames. Yurei giddily spins in the air, bolts of lightning erupting from his slightly brighter form. The smile on his face wouldn't drop, and it doesn't feel like anything would change it soon. Ever since he appeared as a ghost, he'd never had anyone else to talk to him aside from cats, and even that wasn't enough, despite how cute and fluffy they are. Yurei spent the past 4 years before he met Shoyuta sitting around alleys with nothing but cats and doing a lot of people watching. Of course, he tried looking for the place he woke up in, assuming that's where he originally died. But then, something's telling him he shouldn't go alone. Maybe it's a gut feeling, but he doesn't really have those, does he? It might be common sense because there are tons of possibilities, and one of them is absolutely losing his mind when he sees the place where he died, according to fantasy. He could end up hurting someone, and he means hurting them easily. Yurei's aware of the damage he could cause if he simply wanted to, but he doesn't like taking advantage of his abilities to do harm unless he has to. That's also why he's thankful that the family somehow trusts him. It's not that he just used them to discover his past. Yurei's not that eager to know about the 5 years of his life, but they're actually offering. And he's curious, so in a way, it could also help him somehow, so why not do it while he has the option to? His mind wanders towards Shuda's conversation with Tsukachi a few minutes ago. Something about not finding anything? It makes Yurei feel like he should be worried about that. Did the detective mean he didn't find anything about him? What does that mean? He should at least have a file saying he's deceased, right? Either way, Yurei isn't really concerned that he won't find out anything about his past. He knows Tsukachi and he definitely knows Shoyuta. It takes a lot for both of them to give up on a case if it's both of them working on it together. And they have Hizashi and Hitoshi, too. So that's nice. Yurei could also help by telling the detective about the place he died in. After that, it'd be a whole lot easier for them to find something about him. He doubts it's his body, though. It's been years after all. The early hours of the morning passes by as Yurei spends his time wandering around and stopping at least 2 criminals from causing problems along the dark. He's satisfied enough that he nearly forgets one last thing and only remembers about it when he arrives back at the apartment. A glimpse of Hitoshi's figure making coffee on the counter. Yurei was 5 when he turned to a ghost, and sure, he remembers how the place looked like, or the vibes around it. But he remembers there being people, he just can't remember how they looked and who they were. Good morning, So-chan. Yurei greets as he phases through the purple-haired boy, causing Hitoshi to shiver. Yurei just giggles. Morning, Rei-chan, Hitoshi grumbles, finally finishing making his cup of coffee before taking a sip. He sighs when he feels the burn on his tongue. Don't ghosts need sleep? I don't know, I'm the only ghost around, and I don't really need sleep, so probably not, Yurei hums. I tried it before, but... Hitoshi asks. Yurei stays silent as he thinks carefully. Yes, he's tried sleeping before, but it didn't really work. He remembered passing out and waking back up feeling so uncomfortable and shaken that he'd never tried it again. He remembers his eyes burning, as if he was supposed to be crying, and his mind was plagued with the darkness that indicated a nightmare which he couldn't remember. doyoe.bels.kate.h.dro? Reda, stars, athimwithwid. East. doubtful, butinosinid. Naiv. Victim. Ray. Hitoshi exclaims, eyes wide as he finally catches the ghost's attention. You don't have to tell me, you know? It's okay. Huh. Yurei blinks, staring at the teen in front of him. Hitoshi flinches as they made eye contact, which confuses the ghost even more. What's wrong? Hitoshi dumbly says. You kind of flickered. And, your eyes glowed brighter and everything, not in the cool way. You looked, haunted? Oh, Yurei whispers. I never knew that happened. Well, anyway, I guess I'd have company if we both don't sleep, right? Hitoshi tries to change the topic, smirking at the ghost. So-chan, you still need sleep. Yurei sighs. Hitoshi waves him off, grinning at Yurei's pout. Anyway, I know you've said that you don't mind either finding out about your past life or not, but you're still curious, right? Yurei stares at him for a second until he answers. Of course I am. He softly mumbles. What follows after are the words he's been thinking about to himself, about feeling like he needed someone with him when he goes back, about not minding it if they were offering him some chance to discover his past. He also tells Hitoshi about how limited his memory of his death place was, only remembering how it looked like, remembering someone standing near him as his afterlife started, but never and still hasn't remembered anything about the cause, nor the person's face or features. Hitoshi nods, looking thoughtful. Well, at least you remember the place. Do you still remember how to go there? Hitoshi asks. Not really, as I told you I just wandered around carelessly. Ugh, I should have taken note of them. Yurei whines. That's okay. Hitoshi tries to ruffle the ghost's hair, but forgets that Yurei is still in his soul form and huffs before bringing his hand back down. You're not alone anymore. Yurei stares at him with wide eyes, the once forest green orbs glowing emerald in emotion. Even his whole frame was glowing, erupting a few little green lightning bolts. Hitoshi stares at him a little fondly, figuring that maybe Yurei needed to hear those words the most. I mean it, Rei-chan. Hitoshi smiles cheekily. He yelps when Yurei turns to his tangible form before he's suddenly jumping onto the insomniac, clinging onto him in silence. How dare you? You can't just say that out of nowhere, So-chan. Yurei's eyes were burning. I wish ghosts could cry. I really feel like crying right now. Hitoshi cackles, wrapping his arms around the ghost's middle. I feel like you'd be bawling already if you weren't a ghost. So emotional. He softly teases. Whatever, So-chan. Yurei grumbles, still not letting go. Hitoshi doesn't find anything wrong with it. The ghost was light anyway, and instead of the coldness unsettling him, it ends up grounding. They end up staying like that in the kitchen, but Yurei now shifts a little, so he's still trapped between Hitoshi and the counter, his face into the crook of the insomniac's neck, arms now wrapped around Hitoshi's waist as he settles between the boy's legs. The purple-haired boy simply continues sipping on his coffee as he scrolls on his phone, taking advantage of the extra height on the stool to lean his cheek on Yurei's bushy hair. If the married couple walks in on them and they make eye contact with Hitoshi, the insomniac silently warns them not to startle the ghost, completely ignoring the fact that they're cuddling in the kitchen. Yurei gives good ghost cuddles, sue him. Good morning, listeners. Hisashi greets gently after snapping more than a dozen pictures of the scene, still in his sleepy haze. Good morning, Hai-chan. Yurei mumbles, words still muffled into Hitoshi's neck. Morning, Pops. Hitoshi greets. I already made coffee for you both, just reheat them. Shoyuta grumbles something incoherent that was probably supposed to sound like a thank you before grabbing one of the cups and putting it in the microwave. Hisashi ruffles both Hitoshi's and Yurei's hair, smiling at them. Yurei lifts his head from his hiding spot and smiles even brighter, something ironically warm pooling up where his heart would have been. Get ready, what time is it anyway? Shoyuta asks. 10:39. Hitoshi says. Oh, can we just order food? I really don't feel like cooking today. Hisashi says. I don't really mind, Shoyuta answers. The voice hero nods before getting his phone, dialing the fast food resto they usually order from. Shoyuta turns to Yurei. Do you eat? No? I don't feel hunger, Yurei shrugs. So I haven't tried it yet. I could have done it before, but stealing just feels wrong. Well, at least this ghost has morals. Shoyuta mumbles to himself. Yurei chuckles. All right, I've ordered. Hisashi cheers. For the meantime, we should probably tell Tsukachi he could come earlier? If that's all right with you, ghost listener. Ghost listener, really? Hitoshi deadpants. Yurei ignores the insomniac and nods. That's fine, Hai-chan. I'd honestly like to get this done sooner. All right. Shoyuta says before pulling his phone out, sending a quick text to the detective. It's not too long before Tsukachi sends a message back. He should be here around 12. Can I train for a while? Hitoshi asks when Yurei finally detaches from him, although the ghost still sticks close to him. Even an idiot could tell Yurei felt the closest with Hitoshi, they're the same age after all. No, don't train with an empty stomach. And didn't I always tell you Sunday is our rest day? Shoyuta scolds, tapping his son's forehead, ignoring the semi-pout on Hitoshi's face. Yurei starts to stray away from the two before settling beside Hisashi, giggling at the hero when he stares at his bickering husband and son with a fond look on his face. Hisashi turns to him before pinching the ghost's cheek. They're so cute, aren't they? Have I told you that you and Toshi look like a mini version of me and Shoyuta? The teen blushes, shaking his head slowly. Hisashi only smiles. Well, now you know, listener. When the food finally arrives, it brings Hitoshi and Shoyuta out from their small bubble. They all settle down to eat their brunch while Yurei gets the cat food to feed Luna and Brick to avoid them from snatching any of the fast food deliveries. Tsukachi eventually messages the underground hero to inform them that he'd be arriving at around 12, so they all take the free time to get ready and Yurei eventually settles on watching Hitoshi complete the last pages of his assignment. The boy's in his third year of middle school, which means that during the summer he'd focus on training with Shoyuta to get ready for the entrance exam in UE. When the doorbell rings, it's Hisashi who opens the door to let the detective in. Tsukachi scans the place, eventually greeting Shoyuta with a nod before his eyes land on Yurei, who's already staring at him with wide eyes and a welcoming smile. Hitoshi continues to do his homework, only closing the notebook once Tsukachi's been settled on the couch by Hisashi. I've been told you all know what's happening? Tsukachi asks, receiving nods in return. I'm going to inform you that this is a case only we know about, since we don't have any idea what Yurei's situation could be, whether he is known as deceased from murder, an illness, or self-inflicted, so what's been shared here will stay between us. When he gets another round of nods, he continues. The reason we're having this questioning today is because I haven't seen anything related to Yurei nor related to his death. This makes him an unsolved case. I'm going to ask you questions that hopefully you could answer truthfully, yeah. He turns to Yurei. Of course, detective. Yurei smiles. Tsukachi nods in approval. Good. This won't take too long, anyway. Let's start with the first question. Tsukachi watches as Yurei turns to his soul form, probably to avoid any lightnings from affecting them if it ever happens. When the ghost is settled, Tsukachi asks. Just to clarify. Do you not remember anything about your past life? None at all, detective. Yurei answers. True. Have you possibly gained any memories or visions during your current afterlife? None. Do you have any ideas that could lead us to discovering your past? Yurei perks up then. Yeah. It's vague since I was just a young ghost that time, but I'm assuming the place where I woke up in was where I died. 'Cause duh, it has to be. And the place looked sketchy enough that it just made sense. Also, I'm telling you it's vague and I do remember someone else being there, like one person, but I can't remember their body shape or their face at all. Is that okay? He rambles. Shoyuta snorts quietly when he sees Tsukachi's face filled with disbelief, taken aback at the contrast from when they first met. Soon enough, the detective recovers and continues the questioning. Everyone was already paying closer attention to Yurei once Tsukachi asks his question. That's okay, can you describe the place? Sure, if a little detail could help, Yurei hums, thinking. The place had. The sound of a flock of crows takes over the apartment, accompanied with the sound of their wings flapping as if they just flew through the apartment room. Hisashi yelps, but even his quirk couldn't combat the loud noise. Shuta's eyes flashed red and his hair shoots up, alerted as he looks around for any threats. Hitoshi and Tsukachi just stares at Yurei with wide eyes, face mixed with realization and horror. Yurei seems oblivious to the reason of their panic, shutting his mouth in alarm, staring at them with confusion and concern. What's wrong? The sound of crows finally ends, the whole apartment stilling in silence. A moment passes with everyone just staring at Yurei as if the ghost had said something horrifying. Every second makes Yurei shrink, still confused, but he's starting to feel uncomfortable under all the seemingly negative attention. Yurei, I think we might have a problem, Tsukachi carefully starts. Did you not hear anything? Hear what? Yurei asks, even more confused. Listener, let's try again, yeah? Hisashi asks, an uncertain smile on his face. Yurei looks at everyone who's suddenly straightened up as if they're waiting for something to happen. He just nods, still confused, but fully trusts them that they'll stop him when whatever they're so worried about turns out harmful. He opens his mouth to speak again, in a whisper this time. The place I woke up in, it looked like. Everyone shoots up once more when the flock of crows return, screeching together. They look at Yurei to see him shut his mouth once more, but now it looked like even he could hear it. The ghost pushes his hands against his ears, eyes glowing, the lightning around his form more violent than the previous ones they've seen. Probably. Yurei, calm down. Shoyuta shouts, the sound of the crows finally disappearing, but the ghost still seemed so troubled. Just as Hitoshi was about to reach out, Yurei's form flickers, his features changing, glitching. He still has his hands against his ears, shaking his head frantically as if he was hearing something they weren't. Everyone scrambles back to give the ghost some space, waiting for Yurei to calm down, but nothing good was happening. It didn't look like it was about to end sooner. What's happening? Tsukachi exclaims. This never happened before. Hisashi says. His scar. Hitoshi whispers, pointing at the ghost's face. Yurei's form was still glitching, his cloak disappearing to reveal the bandages wrapped around his whole body, from the neck to his ankles. His red shoes were gone, and the bandages were starting to fall apart as if it was loosened. Everyone watches with bated breaths. The bandages that were once clean had red staining them, the unsettling amount of open wounds gushing out some pitch-black thing in almost every part of his body. The biggest one was the huge gash on his front, starting from his collarbones and stretching out to the lower part of his stomach. It was open, and even though it leaked more of the black liquid, no organs were inside, like Yurei was just a container filled with so much of the black goo. The scar on his eye was split open, showing them how it used to look like when Yurei first got it. Listener dash. Hisashi chokes out, so much horror and sorrow on his face. What the F? Hitoshi breathes out, and there were tears in his eyes. The underground hero and the detective were just speechless. Even then, the ghost still didn't hear them. Yurei was still trying to fight whatever battle he was in, his hands shooting up to grip his hair. His eyes were tightly shut, letting out whimpers as he kept shaking his head. DONTSAYANYTHING /BADWO.RDS BADWORDS VDWKRAS DOYOUWANTTOBLI.KE YOURFAVORITEHERZO REDCTD VICTIMD. Yurei lets out a heart-wrenching, distressing scream. Everyone covers their ears and watches as Yurei's form blurs, turning to fog before it becomes smaller. Small zaps of green lightning erupting the clouds. It clears when Shoyuta screams his name. The small figure of a ghost bounces on the couch, laying limply on the cushion. The ribbon stashes that were once green had been colored red. Yurei's smaller ghost form lacked the green glow inside him. The black beads were leaking the same black liquid from earlier. Yurei looked like a lifeless doll. It's been 3 hours. 3 hours has passed and yet the same lifeless form laid still on the couch. They have no idea if Yurei could see or hear them, but they've certainly agreed to avoid touching the ghost even if he was visible. The situation was delicate and they're trying to avoid any more damage to the ghost and possibly to themselves. Approaching this afternoon, everybody had a talk about where to go from now. The only lead they had just quite literally lead them to a dead end, before being reluctantly reminded that that was the only idea Yurei had left. Tsukachi decided to leave the apartment, but not before coming to an agreement within the family. Tsukachi had told them that for now, they really don't have anything else. The 3 males eventually told the detective that while Yurei was still here, he could stay with them. If they come to a point where Yurei would never find out about who he used to be, then they'll cross the bridge when they get there. The detective told them that he would try harder. He has to. He would look into more possible ways and he would update them if he finds anything. It's really not much, but they could only hope that something would come out of it. Once the detective had left, a heavy silence falls onto the whole apartment. It's so uncomfortable, and Hisashi had to nudge Hitoshi out of his trance when he just blankly stared at Yurei. Even Luna and Brick stay as far as they could from the ghost's limp form, probably knowing that it wasn't a good idea. Shoyuta settled on helping Hisashi with grading his students' papers on the dining table, desperately trying to distract himself from looking over at the little thing on the couch. Hitoshi eventually grabbed a book before sitting just by the table in front of the couch Yurei was on, making sure to stay at least a few steps away, just in case anything happens. The faint sound of crows still haunts their minds along with the sight of Yurei's previous form, filled with black goo and tainted with dried red. They try to block it by flipping pages, mumbling words out loud, anything to fill the silence. None of them worked. The first loud noise to interrupt the whole living room to kitchen intersection is Hitoshi harshly slamming the storybook shut in his hands. The married couple turns to their son in alarm, only to see the teen leaning against the coffee table to face the frighteningly still form on the couch. Hitoshi wants to wipe the goo off the scar on Yurei's cloak, but he resists. Then Hitoshi leans forward, laying his arms on the cushion beside Yurei, staring at the ghost. Shoyuta decides to stop staring since it wouldn't really do anything, but then he perks up a little when he hears Hitoshi mumbling to himself. Then the boy pauses for a moment, before he starts mumbling again. The underground hero turns to his husband in confusion, only to see Hisashi looking at him with wide eyes. Is he trying to talk to Rei? Hisashi asks the exact question in Shuta's mind. They both turn to look at the purple-haired teen in the living room, mostly blocked by the armrest of the couch, but they could still see Hitoshi leaning on it. He is, Shoyuta says. It's possible that Yurei could still hear us, probably in some coma-like form? Hisashi nods. That's what I thought too. I hope it helps the boy calm down, whatever's happening to him right now. Shoyuta could only nod, slowly turning away from the boy to continue grading papers. Soon enough Hisashi does the same. They don't understand anything from what Hitoshi had been muttering because of the distance, but maybe this was what he was talking about when he would mutter in his room while occasionally hearing whispers in return. Except right now, even if Yurei could hear him, he wouldn't be able to respond. You're weird, Rei-chan, Hitoshi mumbles, looking at the black beads that lacked the sparkle in them. It's not an insult, by the way. I think I'm the weird one for talking to someone who wouldn't respond. But hey, if you can hear me then tell me about it when you get back? The teen pauses, even though he's not waiting for a response. It's been, nearly 4 hours? Is this shutdown thing voluntary or forced? How long are you gonna stay like that? Brick? Coco misses you. She's staring at you like a kid who didn't get their candy. Hitoshi subtly turns his head to see Coco settled by the side of the couch, sitting up, staring at the ghost with wide eyes. It's also a Sunday, which means we can't distract ourselves with hero-related work. I've done my assignments and all, and if I keep waiting for you like this then I might go crazy. Hitoshi continues, shifting from time to time. The insomniac falls silent for a while, ushering Brick to come closer, and she does. The ragdoll pads closer to the teen before falling pliant on his lap, both of them giving and seeking comfort from each other. Hitoshi looks over at the dining table to see Luna settled by the table leg in between Hisashi and Shoyuta, staring at the couch from afar intensely. Hitoshi turns back to the ghost, still unsettled by the lack of glowing from the figure. Do you know you're my first genuine friend? I'm sure you know that. He leans on the couch again. You follow me after all. His voice is more quiet this time. You better not leave us like this, Rei-chan. He closes his eyes, tired from the emotional and mental fatigue from everything that happened. Maybe he should sleep, and he silently begs that when he wakes up, Yurei would be back to normal again. Hitoshi notes to himself to never let the ghost talk about his death place ever again. Tiredly he mumbles, "You're the closest I had to having a friend." Yurei was alone, stuck in a void room filled with endless black. He was in his original form, the one where he woke up in, where all his past wounds were openly shown, but nothing hurt. He didn't feel pain, he was already dead. His wounds bled, but it seemed more like for display than for him to feel. There were even more marks on certain parts of his body, like the wrists and the ankles and his neck, but they weren't as bad as the gigantic slash from his collarbone to his lower stomach. He stares down at his hands, which were stained with a mixture of blood and the black goo oozing out of him. The goo spilling out from the gash on his eye dripped onto nothing, every drop falling endlessly, and he couldn't hear any indication that they've landed. Yurei wasn't sure if time existed, but he guessed that it's been approximately 12 minutes ever since he appeared in this place. He should have been unsettled, but he's dead, and this place seemed familiar even if it just showed absolutely nothing. None of his abilities worked in this place, they were subdued, but he didn't really mind. Yurei felt a little safe in this space, despite how alone and empty it was. It's like a subconscious telling him to rest and take a step back from everything. What if he talks? Yurei doesn't feel exactly alone. Hello. Yurei calls, ignoring the weird feeling of his skin stretching. It didn't hurt anyway. Hi, Yurei. Yurei turns around, even if he knew it was useless. Everything vibrated as if the void itself was talking to him. The voice was distorted, if glitching was a sound. It held static, sounding like the weirdly unrecognizable voice from broken televisions or radios. What's happening? Yurei asks. Who are you? The faint buzzing against his head feels rather comforting than how it was when he just had a breakdown. You'll figure me out one day, Yurei. I know you will. The void speaks once more, reassuring him. The world will be on your side when the time comes, and destiny will lead you and your companions to the answer you all seek. How? How do you know that for sure? Yurei asks. It's not like he doubts whoever they were. In fact, he felt a little better when he heard them, but he is a curious little thing after all. You'll know when you do, Yurei. The void chuckles. It startles the ghost for a bit. It sounds nice though. HM? But why am I here? I said something wrong, didn't I? Yurei asks softly. It's okay, little one, the void says. Yes, it's a little complicated, you see. The void was just trying to stop you from saying them, because it gravely affects us as a whole. We are very sorry for causing you pain like that. Oh. Yurei says. When will I come back? They're worried, aren't they? Give yourself at least 3 more minutes, Yurei, the void answers. It's okay, your form just needs to recover. You'll be back in no time. What will I do until then? Yurei asks. Good question. The void vibrates a little louder, as if excited. Would you like to listen to this little friend of yours? The purple one, he's a precious little thing. So-chan. Yurei nods his head excitedly. I want to hear him. He must be so worried. Very well, the void softens a little, before a different voice starts entering Yurei's space. It seems like it was speaking, saying something. It's Hitoshi. He's saying things. Random things related to the situation that had Yurei giggling even if he knew Hitoshi wouldn't hear him. The insomniac also asked some questions even Yurei didn't fully know the answer to, and the ghost made a small promise to himself that he'd tell Hitoshi he was listening when he comes back to the living world. The boy rambled like he usually did when Yurei stayed with him in his room, whispering back responses that he didn't know Hitoshi had actually been hearing them faintly until recently. Right now, though, Yurei was aware Hitoshi wouldn't hear him, and the boy sounded so worn out and tired that he didn't even realize he was starting to drift off. Hitoshi's voice kept getting more quiet as he spoke, and it's his soft words accompanied by his gentle voice that sends the void glowing green for at least one moment when Yurei hears Hitoshi speak. You're the closest I had to having a friend. Yurei feels his form brighten, zaps of lightning erupting from his body. When he looks down, he sees the gash on his upper body just a second closer to stitching itself back together. His body had been returning back to normal while he was listening to his friend. He still can't shift in the void though, but he really didn't care at the moment. Feeling better, little one? The void asks, finally returning back to pitch black after Yurei's sudden outburst. Yes, I think So-chan might have helped. I feel so much better. Yurei exclaims. When can I go back? Will you always be here? I kinda like you, whoever you are. The void vibrates in a chuckle once more, making Yurei feel even more comforted. You can go back as soon as you are ready. But I have to tell you that you must not talk about your death place unless you want a repeat of what happened. Yurei nodded, more to himself since the void probably knew he already agreed. I'll try to get out slowly, just so I don't overwhelm myself. He says. Very well, the void hums. Yurei's figure had started to glow, turning more transparent as every second passes by. Little one. Yurei responds to the call with a hum. A last session of vibration fills him with warmth before the void continues speaking. To answer your last question, I'll always be wherever you are. Yurei smiles brightly, just as his form completely disappears, and then he's out of the void. Shoyuta and Hizashi were nearly finished with grading their papers when they hear Hitoshi's yelp in sync with Brick's hiss in alarm. Both of the heroes immediately stop what they're doing, and in a moment they're at the living room when they hear the faint little zaps of lightning. When they look at Yurei, the ghost's form was still limp, but now it's floating up in the air. Small flecks of green escapes from the bottom of the cloak, the two ribbon sashes swaying around as if there was wind passing by. Yurei's form was glowing faintly, the lightning bolts shocking a few objects before leaving a mark. That's probably what woke the teen and the cat up from their nap. Toshi, are you okay? Hizashi asks his son, who's currently rubbing his upper arm with a confused frown on his face. Hizashi only pulls the boy closer to him and farther from the ghost on the couch, protective. What? Hitoshi slurs, looking around. When his eyes land on Yurei, the sleep from his eyes quickly melts away before he perks up. What happened? No, he's suddenly floating and doing. You and Brick were hit by the shocks. Shoyuta grumbles. I thought he was in his soul form? Hizashi asks. He's probably not aware that he's doing it. The three men stay silent, watching the ghost's form start to turn less transparent, the lightning bolts slowly turning smaller the longer they wait. The familiar green glow starts to appear from inside his cloak once more, the black and red stains on his clothes and ribbons finally disappearing. Yurei's eyes remain closed, as if he was still trying to compose himself. But now everything seems normal about him again, the same lively sight he was before 5 hours ago. Rei-chan? Hitoshi calls shakily. At his call, Yurei's eyes snap open, the sparkle in those black orbs finally back to life. Shoyuta and Hizashi lets out a breath they never knew they held. They watch as Yurei turns from right to left, his ribbon sashes swaying with the motion. Then his ghost form turns to fog, little green lightning erupting from here and there, before he's finally in his teenage form again. When Hitoshi realizes he's tangible, the teen literally makes a run for it and harshly collides onto the ghost, wrapping his arms around Yurei. Yurei yelps at the sudden contact, but calms right away and reciprocates the action, swaying their bodies from side to side. You missed me. The utter relief that makes the married couple melt makes Yurei glow in glee, literally. Though he does feel a little bad that he's the reason they felt so restless. USEK Rei-chan? Hitoshi grumbles, burying his nose onto Yurei's bushy hair. Is that another compliment? Yurei giggles. It's an insult this time, it really is. Whatever you say, So-chan. God, the nickname must have done it. 'Cause Hitoshi absolutely slumps against the ghost when he hears him say it. Hizashi looks at Shoyuta with a fond look on his face, seeing the underground hero's eyes just as soft as the sight in front of them. The voice hero eventually strolls over to them, smiling at Yurei before ruffling his hair. Welcome back, listener. Do you feel better? Hello, hi-chan, hi Sho-chan. Yurei leaves Hitoshi's arms before hugging the two heroes, although Shoyuta just sighs before wrapping one arm while Hizashi absolutely squeezes the ghost in affection. I feel better now. The place I went to helped a lot. What place? Shoyuta asks cautiously. Of course he does, he's learned quite a bit that speaking of Yurei's death place was something they shouldn't do. But if this place helped Yurei, then maybe it could be a different case. I honestly don't know. Yurei says helpfully. Hitoshi snorts. Hizashi cackles and Shoyuta lets out a confused noise. The ghost blushes green before waving his hands frantically. Wait, I don't think it's a place we can locate here. But it's just me, in a very, very, very endless void. Interesting. Shoyuta mumbles, deeming it safe for him to continue since they haven't heard any sound of the crows. The void talks too. Like, it vibrates, or something, and it's so comforting even if it's dark around. The place feels familiar, home? In a way. Yurei quietly talks, more so like he's talking to himself instead of the family. What did it say? Hisashi asks. It said a lot. Like I'll figure who they are when the time comes. They also told me something about destiny leading me to the answer I seek? It's probably my past, Yurei answers. It told me not to speak about my death place again. We figured that too. Hitoshi sighs. And I heard So-chan. Yurei cheers, avoiding the somber atmosphere as he goes to hug the purple-haired teen. He said I'm his friend, I'm his friend. Hitoshi sputters, cheeks turning red. Hisashi just coos at the pair while Shoyuta smiles a little. That's great, Rei baby, Hisashi says softly. You're so cute, you know that? I do. Yurei is practically glowing in happiness. I missed you guys. We missed you too. Hisashi looks like he's close to tears, which, understandable. You've been gone for 5 hours, sweetheart. Yurei froze. 5 hours? The three men simply nods their heads, amused at the confused look on Yurei's face. Maybe time works different there, Yurei mumbles to himself. I was there for 15 minutes. So 3 minutes there is equal to an hour. Shoyuta nods his head, then he sighs. We have a lot to take in and it's already a Monday tomorrow. Sorry. Yurei chuckles apologetically, Shoyuta simply waves him off, a meaning they all knew that meant, I'm not mad, I'm just grumpy and tired. It's just a change in routine, we can handle this. Hisashi chimes, we'll take it slow from now on and we'll think about it when Tsukachi finds something, okay? Yurei just nods his head, leaning a little against Hitoshi. The insomniac wraps an arm around the ghost, still getting used to the fact that Yurei's back and he's okay, trying to remove the image of the black thing, leaving from his open scars. Subtly, he checks an opening from Yurei's cloak, relaxing a bit when he sees his upper body wrapped in bandages, no signs of the previous injuries from earlier. Basically, we meet a ghost that claims he's some protector of our growing family, and now we're looking for his past because it just seems right, but shit happens in the middle of it? Hitoshi deadpans to himself, but realizes that everyone heard him when Yurei sputters in embarrassment, along with Hisashi scolding him half-heartedly for his language and Shoyuta snorting quietly. Yeah, basically. Yurei chuckles. I honestly just wanna watch a movie, Hitoshi sighs. Are you both done grading papers? Almost, you two go on ahead, Shoyuta says, already walking back towards the kitchen, but not before ruffling Yurei's hair a little bit. Glad you're back, problem child. Yurei glows once more at the greeting, smiling even brighter than he was. When Hitoshi looks at his face, he smiles a little bit, ignoring the cold that washes over him when his eyes land on Yurei's scar. Hisashi smiles at them cheekily with a wink before following his husband to the dining table. Hitoshi pokes the ghost's cheek before sitting back on the couch. Yurei tries to do the same, but the cloak is so big it falls on Hitoshi's lap when he sits beside him. The purple-haired teen watches in amusement, then he asks a question. Can you change what you wear? Surely you didn't wake up wearing that, right? Oh, I can. I guess I just got used to wearing this, though. Yurei hums, what should I wear? Whatever you want? Hitoshi answers in a question. You could, make a ghost design on your casual clothes if you feel like it. Good idea. Yurei says, before finally focusing on his clothing, muttering out soft words as Hitoshi tries to find a movie they can watch. In the middle of it, Hitoshi catches Yurei mumble something that sounds suspiciously close to a would it be okay if I wear a witch hat in public? And he tries not to smile at the thought. When Hitoshi says F and tells Yurei that yes, he could wear a witch hat in public, the ghost smiles at him in glee and Hitoshi decides that it'll be fine if they get weird stares as long as the ghost looks happy. It's not like Yurei would show himself all the time either. Ha! Yurei suddenly cheers, startling the teen beside him. Hitoshi hasn't even picked a movie yet. I thought of one. That's great, Rei-chan. You can change now if you want, Hitoshi says, turning to the ghost to see him transform when he stands up from the couch. The cloak around Yurei turns to fog, still covering the bandages wrapped around him, though this time Hitoshi could see the bandages reach from his neck before stretching out to his arms, then towards his fingers. It then also reaches down to his legs and goes until his ankles. The sight makes him feel uncomfortable. What could have happened that made him wrap his whole body? The insomniac shakes his head, focusing more on the fog that's moving around Yurei's body, the gray color suddenly being mixed with green and black before it sticks closer to Yurei's body. The fog starts to clear and Hitoshi starts to see the new look that Yurei had for himself. You look cute, Hitoshi bluntly says, showing a nod of approval. Thank you, So-chan. Yurei jumps. His new casual outfit is a very big hoodie that could probably be considered as a dress, honestly, but Hitoshi does see a glimpse of black shorts when Yurei jumped. The hoodie was dark green up to the mid-bicep, while the sleeves were dirty white. The sleeve openings were a lighter green with 2 lines of the same color running up to the lower part of the mid-biceps. The hood was also the same dirty white with a big witch hat attached to it, and Hitoshi can't even judge Yurei because it actually looks cute when he pulls it over his head. The middle part of the neckline sits a small skull with 2 light green sashes with 2 white lines attached to it, although it wasn't a ribbon unlike the one in his cloak. Yurei still wore the same red shoes that honestly contrasted his whole color scheme, but Hitoshi feels like it's part of the trademark. It's a nice look, you'll blend in better than before. Hitoshi nods his head again. Just the witch hat? I mean, you know what, wear it whenever you want, it's cool. He settles on saying, taking a mental note to fight whoever even tries to antagonize the ghost. I will. Yurei chimes. Does that mean you're planning to show yourself outside? Yurei shrieks when Shoyuta suddenly joins the conversation. They both turn around to see Shoyuta looking at Yurei with a thoughtful expression while Hisashi's facing his phone towards the ghost, snapping some pictures. Well, if that's okay? Yurei asks, suddenly shy. The look on Shoyuta softens before he sighs. Kid, you don't need my permission, just remember to stay safe and come back in one piece. Shoyuta grumbles. What he means is you can do whatever you want. Just come home, okay? Hisashi smiles gently. And you look so pretty, baby. I love the outfit. Thank you, Hai-chan. Yurei giggles. And I'll look after myself, Sho-chan, don't worry about me. We'll worry either way, Hitoshi says. Now come here, I've chosen something that looks like a bad horror movie and I want to make fun of it. Oh, I'll get blankets and pillows, be right back. Hisashi says before turning towards the bedrooms. Shoyuta had decided to slip into his sleeping bag that he brought with him before he settles on the couch after being told by the 2 kids that they'll lay on the floor instead. Hisashi quickly comes back with a pile of fluff, with Brick and Luna following behind him. The ragdoll quickly settles between Yurei and Hitoshi while the Burman cat plops herself on the armrest. They distribute the various blankets and pillows among each other before finally settling themselves for the movie. Toshi, do you have everything ready for school tomorrow? I'm sure you'd be lazy to fix things after dinner. Hisashi softly speaks from his side of the couch. I got everything handled. Hitoshi mumbles. If he forgets something, I'll bring it to him tomorrow. Yurei smiles cheekily. Don't get used to doing that, only agree when it's something important. Shoyuta speaks up from his sleeping bag. Yes, Dad. Hitoshi rolls his eyes playfully, even though the hero couldn't see it, he absolutely felt it. The purple-haired teen finally presses play and the movie starts. Hitoshi tells them the ratings of the movie, which was lower than average, so everybody gets ready to laugh instead of screaming at something that probably wouldn't even be that scary. A few minutes into the play, Yurei turns around to see Shoyuta leaning his head on the couch's armrest behind Hitoshi, so he turns to Hisashi instead. Will my hat block the screen if I wear my hood? Yurei quietly whispers to the voice hero. Oh, it's okay, little listener, I'm sure it won't block my vision. Hisashi gently answers. Yurei smiles at him before pulling his hood up and over his head. Something about covering it keeps him comfy, mostly because he got used to the hood on his previous cloak. He'll surely miss that outfit, but it's been years, and maybe it is time for a change. When another jump scare appears on the screen, Hitoshi and Shoyuta lets out a synchronized snort, triggering Hisashi's short cackle and Yurei's soft chuckle. A few minutes later, he feels a soft tug on his witch hat, and he turns around slightly to see the blonde playing with the end of it. Hisashi doesn't seem to notice that he's done it, and Yurei finds it endearing. The silence is filled with Shoyuta grumbling at random scenes while Hisashi responds from time to time. Hitoshi seems happy with antagonizing every detail of the movie, while Yurei's giggles interrupt him in the middle of it. He surely doesn't mind this type of change in his afterlife. Right when the movie ends, Shoyuta lets out a yawn before saying a small "that was sheet," and Hisashi didn't even tell him off because he's right. They spend a few minutes gathering themselves, the voice hero standing up to stretch before bickering with Hitoshi when the teen calls him old. "We all get bone cracks, Hitoshi. I'm not old." Yurei's just there, watching it happen with a small smile on his face. Yurei follows Luna and Brick, who pads over to the yellow sleeping bag where a certain hero lays inside. Shoyuta blinks an eye open, closing it again when he sees the ghost sitting with his legs crossed just in front of him. "Hello, Sho-chan," Yurei smiles. "Been a while since we last talked." "We literally talked yesterday," Shoyuta says. The ghost pouts. "That's the point. Anyway, I was just gonna tell you that if you or Hai-chan need me tomorrow, just do anything with the intention of calling me, okay? I'm gonna stay with So-chan tomorrow, but I'll be there right away." "Elaborate anything," Shoyuta says. "Anything," Yurei says, making hand motions. "Knock on wood, rub your hand on your clothes, flip a book page, write my name, write your name, write a failing grade on your student's essay, anything. Except for calling my name, we don't want unwanted people to hear and take advantage of it, okay?" I'll keep that in mind." "Thank you, problem child. I'll tell that to Zashi. Is that what you want me to do as well?" Shoyuta asks. "If you could." "Thank you very much, Sho-chan," Yurei nods with a smile. "Just remember that it's for emergencies, okay? Like when you were dying. Oh, by the way, did you tell Hai-chan and So-chan about that?" "Of course, it's illogical to call you for something unnecessary," Shoyuta pauses. "And yes, we talked about it while you were recovering." Yurei nods again. "Good. Then let's get up now, Sho-chan. Dinner time." "I'm not a kid, Yurei." Shoyuta grumbles, but he's sitting up anyway. "I know." Yurei smiles cheekily. Hitoshi and Hisashi have gone to the kitchen to start dinner when they saw the ghost and the caterpillar conversing, leaving the two of them alone in the living room. Brick and Luna are cuddled together by the other end of the couch. The ghost helps with setting the table up for the family while Shoyuta refills the container of cat food. Hitoshi simply assists Hisashi with cooking while playing with Yurei's witch hat when they both have nothing to do. The dinner is quickly done. They all settle down to eat while Yurei feeds the cats, and something tells everybody that this would be a routine for them. When everyone eventually says goodnight, Hitoshi has been followed to his room by the ghost before said ghost just floats in midair and does a laying down position. "You don't patrol on Sundays too?" Hitoshi asks. "I patrol when I've done everything I needed to do for the family today," Yurei answers. Then he turns to the purple-haired teen. "I'm not yet done with one more task, but it's nothing too hard." "Why are you being so vague?" Hitoshi chuckles. "Did you need to tell me something?" "Yeah, actually. It's about your safety. I've told Sho-chan earlier and he's most probably telling Hai-chan about it now." Yurei says. Hitoshi hums. "Okay, tell me." "So." Yurei turns around in the air. "It's about calling me, and it's for emergencies only. I've had a hard time before since I never knew when one really needed help, but I couldn't really just show myself and talk to you all." "That's fair." Hitoshi nods. "Anyway, to call me all you gotta do is think of me, then do anything to trigger the call." Yurei says, continuing when he sees Hitoshi raise an eyebrow in confusion. "Literally anything like do the call motion, or tap on anything or stomp your foot. Anything." "Why anything? Don't I just have to think about you or something?" Hitoshi asks. "It works that way the most. If you just think of me then I'll think I'm just a passing thought through your head. I would have actually told you to say my name, but I want to avoid unwanted people hearing my given name, because they could use it for bad things. Yurei explains. Oh, that makes sense. All right then, I'll keep that in mind. Hitoshi says while nodding his head. That's great. Yurei smiles. You're really into this protector role, huh? The insomniac smiles back softly. I still can't believe that you're real. Well, you gotta get used to me. Yurei pokes the other's cheek. I gotta go, Sochin, the town needs watching. Do you like it? Hitoshi asks suddenly. Like what? Yurei asks back. Like doing what? You're doing. Patrolling, keeping people safe, fighting bad guys. The teen waves a hand around. Yurei nods his head quickly, glowing a little. Of course. I like helping people. That's great, Rei-chan, Hitoshi smiles. The ghost can't seem to get why it looks so sad. Why is he sad all of a sudden? Now go, the fam's safe here. Sochin, are you okay? Yurei asks as he floats to the boy, worry laced in his voice. Hitoshi just shakes his head, booping the ghost's nose. Just thinking I'll sleep soon. Meet you back at 5. If you say so. Yurei says before booping Hitoshi's nose back. The purple-haired teen recoils playfully. Good night, Sochan. Yurei says before disappearing, probably to teleport somewhere. Hitoshi figured that he'd probably turned back to a soul once he left the apartment to avoid anyone keeping track of any of his features. Hitoshi lays on his bed, staring at the ceiling with a sigh leaving his lips. He wonders how good of a hero Yurei would have been if he was still alive. It's been weeks ever since Katsuki's mark on the last 3 months of this DMN school year. Everyone never even changed, continuously praising him for every little thing he does while letting him get away with everything he does. It's to make Aldra a proud school when he gets into UE, they said. Katsuki wants to scoff at the bullshit. If he didn't have such an amazing quirk, then he'd be treated the same just like everyone else. It's not like he abuses the power. He just thinks everyone in this school is below him and he'd never planned on being friends with anyone. Everyone is an extra, and the only one worthy of his attention was gone from his life approximately 10 years ago. Not like Katsuki could dwell on it, anyway. Ever since the disappearance of the whole Midoriya family, Katsuki remained alone for the rest of his years. The only people who knew them were their co-workers, along with Katsuki's preschool friends. But as time passed by, nearly everyone had forgotten about them. Everyone except the Bakugo family. Katsuki could never forget Izuku. He also knew Demon well. His mother still thinks of Inko from time to time, and his dad was close friends with Hisashi. Basically, the Bakugas and the Midoriyas were a tight-knit family. A few weeks later, they were considered dead and their case was practically abandoned. Midoriya Inko and Midoriya Hisashi had their deaths registered after weeks of not finding them, and when you ask any police department or the hospital for a Midoriya Izuku, they simply tilt their heads and say, Midoriya Inko and Midoriya Hisashi are the only Midoriyas in Mizudafu. There are no files about a Midoriya Izuku. It left Katsuki so confused, because Izuku should be there. When he asked his mom and dad about it, even they didn't have an answer to it. It was the first time he saw his mother cry so openly in front of him. He was 4 years old then, and seeing his usually brash mom so vulnerable and filled with a different type of anger made him feel just as bad too. That day, the Bakugo family cried together in the living room. That was also the day Katsuki swore that he'd be the best DMN hero in the world. He would double his efforts, and he even thought to mellow down his attitude. Izuku would be so disappointed if he ends up cursing another person with ill meaning. That doesn't mean he stopped cursing other people though, just, he doesn't have to mean it, and if they can't accept that then they won't earn Katsuki's respect? Friendship? What? Anyway, the reason why he's suddenly thinking about the DMN nerd again was because apparently someone called his mother and they were planning to talk to the whole family about a case they were working on. It didn't really imply anything about the Midoriyas, but what else could they possibly help with? Ever since that day, they've been less interactive with their other friends, not like they had anyone else they were that close with. Get ready, Kat. They'll arrive any minute now. Mitsuki's voice reaches him from downstairs, urging the blonde to get up from his bed. Whatever, hag. Katsuki screams back, just in case the woman thinks he didn't hear her. He doesn't really have anything to do, It's a Friday and he already finished all of the assignments he had to do. He can wear whatever too, this is his home anyway, and the visitor has probably encountered something worse than a plain shirt and shorts. Turns out, any minute later is actually somewhere about 10 seconds from when his mother just spoke, because Katsuki faintly hears the sound of their doorbell ringing. He decides to go downstairs and decides that he's either deeply involved or not at all. Katsuki hears his mom and dad greeting the visitor of visitors. Judging from the two unfamiliar voices that greet back, one sounding professional and the other just sounding very tired, Katsuki sympathizes with the second man. "Brat, come here dash. I'm effing here." Katsuki grumbles, glaring at the two visitors with no heat. One of them looked like the detective, and the other looked like some hobo clad in dark clothes, his head engulfed in some weird toilet paper or bandage-looking thing. Once they've settled on the couch, the detective introduces himself. "I am Detective Tsukachi Naomasa. This is Aizawa Shoyuda. He is also investigating in this case. Do you have any ideas to why we decided to question you today?" "Not in particular, Tsukachi-sen. Should we be worried about something?" Masaru asks politely. "You don't, actually. I will go straight to the point here." Tsukachi pauses. "We want to ask you questions about the old case of the Midoriya family." A short silence passes by the whole living room, the detective and the hobo looking at their faces for their reactions. Mitsuki's body stiffens at the mention of her best friend's last name, Masaru straightens up, and Katsuki's eyes narrow at the visitors, analyzing and curious. "What about them? It's been 10 years. Mitsuki asks, her voice uncharacteristically quiet. "We just want to know about your relations with the family." Aizawa smoothly joins the conversation. "I'm afraid we can't tell you the reason why we've decided to go back to this case again. Not yet, since we're still unsure about the situation, and you, the Bakugas, are the only lead we have so far. And if we do confirm the situation, we will briefly inform you about it." Tsukachi continues Aizawa's words. The Bakugas simply stay silent, and surprisingly it is Masaru who speaks. "You simply want information about them? We don't have anything else aside from our relationship and how they look like." Tsukachi simply nods his head. "That would be great. We appreciate your cooperation. If you could, maybe you have some references or pictures to show us." "What do you need them for? I'm sure you know that they've been declared." "Gone." Mitsuki shakes her head. "Did anyone report? Are they alive? Were they found?" Katsuki simply watches the interaction in front of him. "No one reported anything, Bakugu-san," Aizawa says. "As I've said, we cannot confirm anything in this situation, nor reveal our assumptions either. The only thing we can tell you for sure is that something had been brought up that could possibly lead us to the Midoriyas, but nothing is guaranteed. We advise you not to raise your hopes up." Okay, Mitsuki nods. "All right, where do we start?" "A simple description of the Midoriyas, if that could help." Tsukachi smiles gently. "Katsuki, maybe you could get some of our pictures with them." "Know where they are, right?" Masaru asks quietly, turning to his son. The blonde simply huffs before standing, turning around to leave the couch and head to his parents' shared bedroom. He squats down the side of the queen-sized bed, reaching out below to pull out some dusty box that's been left unattended ever since. "Well, 10 years ago perhaps." Katsuki stares at it for a long time before pulling the cover off, trying to keep as little dust as he can from dirtying his hands. Inside are all the various photographs they'd had from those many years ago. Katsuki can already see the familiar shade of green in one of them, a little dulled from the quality of the photos. He shuffles through them and tries to get the best pictures he could, the ones where each Midoriya could be recognized. One that contained Mitsuki and Inko smiling with barbecue sticks in their hands during the last New Year gathering they had together, the second one being Masaru and Hisashi looking up from their squatting positions while their hands were covered in soot, both fathers fixing Katsuki's and Izuku's bikes. And the third one, where Katsuki and Izuku were doing some power poses, both clad in a mini all-might costume their parents bought for them. Katsuki wipes each picture clean on his shorts, not caring if they got dirty, while trying to will his watery eyes to dry the F up because he can't have himself go back there with red eyes and a runny nose. He can't. Once he's gained composure once more, He stands up and leaves the room, walking back downstairs towards the living room. He starts to hear a few of their words before picking up on who he assumes to be was Tsukachi speaking. Believe you truly, Bakugo-san. I should inform you that my quirk is lie detector, and I can simply tell whenever a person is telling the truth or not. We believe what you're saying about the Midori as having an only child, and it also confuses us why we don't have any trace of him in our department files. I'm back. Katsuki grumbles his arrival, reaching out the 3 photos towards his parents. Mitsuki practically snatches it from his hands, eyes immediately tearing up when she locks them on her picture with Inko. She holds herself though, clearing her throat. Here, detective. We hope we've been a big help. She hands the photos out towards Tsukachi, who gently takes it out of her hand before examining it. Katsuki watches his face carefully, noting the brief widening of his eyes before shifting back to a normal look again, nodding his head as he looks up from the photo while handing it to Aizawa. You've done so much, Bakugo-san, we're very thankful for your immediate cooperation. Tsukachi says, right when Aizawa reaches the 3rd picture and he completely freezes. It's not noticeable to any of them, since he's been a trained underground hero to know that he should not give out what he feels through facial expressions and body language. Are you reopening the case? Masaru asks. I believe not. We don't want this case to gain any form of attention as it will be suspicious to the media. It would be great if you keep whatever happened in this house between us. Aizawa says, standing up slowly. He places the photos on the coffee table, bowing a little. Tsukachi follows him before bowing as well, greeted with the same action from the 2 Bakugos. Katsuki simply nods his head. If it's okay, we'll be heading out now, Tsukachi smiles. Thank you very much for having us. Wait, if Mitsuki pauses, looking at the pictures on the table. I don't know if it'll be of any help, but you could take the pictures if you need. Katsuki stares at the way Tsukachi and Aizawa look at each other, having a silent conversation before eventually looking away. The hobo-looking man nods his head, half of his expression hidden by the scarf around him. If that's okay, we'll be taking all 3 of these for a while. We promise to return them eventually. Aizawa says, staying in his position. It seems like he won't be getting any of them unless Mitsuki allows him to. The blonde woman smiles politely and nods her head. Aizawa bows once more before grabbing the 3 photos, slipping all of them inside his pocket. Thank you. He flatly says, although the family had probably figured that this was just how he was. Katsuki let himself leave the living room and go back to his room, letting his parents walk the 2 out of their house. They're having a conversation, but it's already too muffled for the blonde to hear. It's not like he cares anyway, it's possibly just them passing out greetings before they leave. Instead, his mind unconsciously drifts back to his green-haired childhood friend, wondering what he would have been doing if he were still alive. Probably collecting some All Might merch. Katsuki huffs to himself, a small smile gracing his lips. Please tell us immediately if we're still connected to this case or not, Mitsuki pleads. I don't want to hope too much. Katsuki and Izuku had been friends since they were in their diapers and he might not look like it, but I know he's hopeful about this and I just can't dash. Masaru places his hands on both of Mitsuki's shoulders, squeezing them gently. Don't worry, Bakugo-san, Tsukachi says. We'll inform you about it immediately. I apologize for having to be vague about it. That's all right, it's your job. Masaru smiles politely, bowing a little. Tsukachi, let's go. Shoyuta says to the detective. Tsukachi nods his head before bowing one last time towards the parents. Shoyuta nearly looked like he was rushing towards the car, and honestly, he didn't care if Tsukachi caught onto it. He slips into the passenger's seat, bringing out the 3 photos from his pocket to check the missing family's faces once more. Tsukachi arrives just when he's on Inko's photo, watching him silently. The kid looks like him, it has to be him. Shoyuta says, now looking at the photo of Katsuki and Yurei, Izuku. What do you think? Do we tell the Bakugos about Yurei? Because I know very well you're gonna to tell the kid about this. Tsukachi asks. If Yurei does he call him Izuku now? Shoyuta doesn't know. If he wants to meet them, he could. I think it'd be best if we tell the truth to the family, there's no reason to hide this from them. We can at least let them know they have one member of the Midoriya's back. Tsukachi nods his head slowly. So, Midoriya Izukuta. Shoyuta hums. Now we only have to figure out what happened the day they went out for court counseling. It's been nearly a month since they first met. Yurei was back from floating around the town to see Hitoshi doing his homework in the dining room. Hizashi and Shoyuta were still outside, the voice hero busy on his after-school patrol while the underground hero was called to the police department. Tsukachi's last call was a little long ago, so calling again meant that they probably had a possible lead towards Yurei's case. He wasn't able to follow them, mostly because there were some annoying kids trying to bother Hitoshi on the way home, and Yurei knew Tsukachi and Shoyuta could handle themselves, and he trusts Shoyuta to call him when he's needed. Shaking those thoughts away, he quietly peeks over the purple-haired boy's shoulder, curious to what the boy could be doing. That looks complicated, Yurei pouts. Like, I know school is important, and when I was alone I just caught up my studies until what they're teaching you right now, but these days I haven't caught up to what you're learning, since the city's kind of full of petty crimes recently, and that's kinda weird to look at. Hitoshi stops writing, turning his head to look at Yurei with disbelief on his face. You're a ghost and you're still trying to study? Hey, it's not my fault they're interesting. And I'm bored. Yurei huffs. Do you have notes? I want to catch up. I also do it while I'm with Haichan since he teaches too, and I take a break when I'm with Shochan. My notes are in my bag, Hitoshi answers. I guess I get it though. Nothing really changes now that we know about you, just that our routines add one more person to the mix. So now that we know each other, I can just ask for notes instead of sneaking through them. Yurei smiles cheekily. Hitoshi rolls his eyes fondly before getting back to his work. Time to time, he looks up to see Yurei absolutely immersed with his notes, and he figures that maybe the ghost was a curious little being even during his past life. It's impossible not to see it. The door opens to Hizashi greeting the house with his loud voice, quirk not activated. Yurei whps around to greet him back with the same enthusiasm, Hitoshi drawling out his own. Hizashi flips the tip of Yurei's witch hat, walking over to Hitoshi before placing a kiss on the boy's forehead, ignoring the teen's half-hearted protests. They continue to work in silence while they hear Hizashi singing in the bathroom, silently enjoying the voice hero's self-proclaimed concert. Hitoshi hears Yurei humming along sometimes, and he silently hoped that his dad was here to listen to both of them together. The voice hero steps out of their shared bedroom not too long after before walking out to the kitchen. Sho should probably be home any minute now, he said we have something to talk about. Hizashi says while getting the ingredients ready for dinner. They got something? Yurei exclaims. He did, ghost listener. Hizashi nods with a soft smile. I'm not sure if it's something good or bad, but it's surely helpful if Sho has something to tell us. Right when Hizashi stops talking, they hear the window slide open from the apartment's balcony. Speaking of the devil. Hizashi jokes. I'm home, comes the grumbled greeting. Shoyuta emerges from the hallway. He then halts in his step when he makes eye contact with Yurei. Izuku? You know what? He'll stick to who he first knew him as before he sighs. Do you want to talk now or after dinner? We can have dinner first? Yurei shyly asks, glowing a little when Shoyuta nods his head. Hitoshi gathers his things, shortly asking Yurei if he still needed his notes. The ghost shakes his head and simply hands the notebook over, now focused on the underground hero. Is it good or bad? It's nothing to worry about, Shoyuta answers vaguely. Be more prepared that it could trigger some of your memories. The ghost immediately perks up at that, curiosity growing and mildly ignoring Hizashi's call for dinner in the process, although he does distract himself from glowing too brightly by feeding the cats. It's a good distraction. Shoyuta tries not to get his own hopes up, mindlessly fiddling with the 3 photographs in his pocket. He and Hizashi had both settled on the couch, waiting for the kids to finish washing the dishes. They practically demanded to wash them today, and Shuta's too tense to care while Hizashi couldn't really resist the power of the duo's pleading eyes. It didn't take too long, since they could see floating plates from the sink. They never knew Yurei also had telekinesis. Just what else could this ghost do? Yurei literally runs towards the couch, sitting on the floor beside the coffee table. Hitoshi follows closely before settling down beside him. It's nothing bad, and you said it could trigger my memories, so that means there's some good people that I've met. He rambles. It is possible, not guaranteed, Shoyuta reminds him. Firstly, we'll see if you remember by hearing their names. Hizashi and Hitoshi watches silently as Yurei nods with determination. Gently now, Shoyuta speaks again. Try not to be too upset if nothing works, okay, problem child? When Yurei nods, slower this time, Shoyuta lets out a breath. Then he starts mentioning names. They all look at Yurei closely, as if anticipating for his reactions. At every bakugu that Shoyuta had said, Yurei did not glow nor show any indication that he remembered something or someone. When Shoyuta pauses, Yurei mutters the three unfamiliar names over and over again, but he just shakes his head with a small frown. Shoyuta reassures him right away, telling him he wasn't done yet. This time, he started mentioning each Midoriya that he discovered today. Although he does perk up at the Midoriya Izuku that Shoyuta finishes with, he doesn't confirm anything. Are you sure the people you found are connected to me? What if it's just a coincidence? Yurei asks slowly, even though he seems a little skeptical. Midoriya Izuku sounded painfully familiar to him, but he can't remember. But then Shuta's eyes lighten a little at his reaction, which means he wasn't just imagining the vague sense of relief when he hears the name. Hitoshi and Hizashi stay silent too. They know the moment when Shoyuta comes to a dead end, and right now isn't one of those times. That's why we're here. It's to confirm if you can remember anything based on verbal triggers. It seems to be quite the case in one condition, Shoyuta says, then he asks, does Midoriya Izuku ring a bell? It does. Something's telling me that I know who that is, but then I just can't, Yurei says, clamping a hand against his forehead. I have pictures. Shoyuta says bluntly, like he didn't just nearly send Yurei into an unnecessary panicking state. Everyone straightens up at that, Hitoshi even looking curious to what Shoyuta could pull out of his pocket. Why didn't you just show them first, Sho? Hizashi asks, a little exasperated. His husband only rolls his eyes. I had to see if we can trigger something by saying the names, and now that we've confirmed that there's a chance he could remember, I could go all out. Then he turns to Yurei, you have to tell us when it gets overwhelming, got it? Yes, Sho-chan. Yurei slowly nods. Everything's going smoothly so far, but right now is the risky part. Yurei could pull something like what happened that time a month ago, or something else unexpected and new. You have a picture of the Izuku one, right? Yurei stutters, something that they haven't witnessed in a while. He's shy and he's nervous, but he's so curious about that one. It pulls him, he can feel it tugging at the back of his head. Yurei stares at Shuta's eyes with such intensity that the underground hero couldn't say no. He pulls the photo out of his pocket, slowly handing it towards the ghost, hesitating. Yurei easily takes it from him, and he spares himself the suspense before flipping the photo after taking a deep breath. Yurei's eyes land on red ruby eyes, small and squinted, but it sparks something in him and suddenly he feels like there's finally another puzzle piece connected to his existence. He knows those eyes. He knows. His eyes trace the spiky blonde that seems to make him remember even more and goes down to the boys. The boys Byujoyu Katsuki, Shoyuta had said, Katsuki, Kekekich. K-A-C-C-K-N-K, C-C-K-N-K, C-C-K-N-K, C-C-K-N-K. C-C-K-N-K. His eyes drive over to the other hand engulfed in Kissis and it goes up the torso, taking in the bright costume of All Might and suddenly when his eyes make contact with a pair the same color as his, Yurei takes in the wide mess of curly hair tucked into the onesie. It looked so familiar. Yui doesn't hear the multiple calls for his name. But that wasn't his name, not originally. Everything looked so familiar because it's WASHIM. MIDORIYA-IZUK. A part of him feels reconnected. KACSIN. We match. IZUKU giggles loudly when the boy steps into the living room. They're both smiling because they both look like heroes and IZUKU is excited they'll play together. Come on, Izu, the old woman wants us to take a picture. Let's get this over with and we can play. Katsuki grabs the smaller boy's wrist and drags him outside, where REDHCTED and REDACTED were waiting for them. Where's Uncle Kakin? Izuku asks. He's with your papa at the park already. Let's go. Katsuki pulls harder, although it's still patient, and finally Izuku follows, holding one bag of snacks on his back. Katsuki had his own, but it's with REDHCTED. When they both arrive at the door, they strike their own poses with childish confidence, making both their mothers coo along. REDACTED ushers them together, bringing out her phone. The gentleman can wait. Look at our little superboys. She cheers, her best friend grinning so widely from beside her. Strike a pose again, boys. REDHCTED encourages them. Kakin, hold my hand, let's do a power pose. Izuku says, offering his hand to the blonde. Katsuki doesn't protest, grabbing Izuku's hand before raising his other as if he was flexing muscles. Izuku raised a fist in the air. That's right, he would be the best hero with Katsuki. Dachu.ku. Izuku. Izuku. The ghost snaps out of it when he hears Shoyuta scream his name, screams the loudest he could. Yurei. Izuku gasps loudly, as if he hadn't taken in a breath for so long. His figure leans forward weakly, planting his hands firmly on the table in front of him. Izuku remembers everything. Everything about Bakugo Katsuki. He remembers first talking to him, when he can't pronounce his name so he calls him Kakin. Izuku remembers everything about his blonde friend, and all those memories take nearly all the awareness in Izuku's past life. He doesn't know how, but he has a feeling that he was one of who made the most memories with him in his past life. Izuku stares at the hands in front of him, glowing so much brighter than when he usually does. He looks like the sun, except he was green and the tiny little flares are replaced with small lightnings. With every memory that becomes distant in his head, Izuku takes in his surroundings once more, taking in Hitoshi who was once beside him now standing up beside both of his dads. They're all cautious, staring at him with wide eyes and a careful distance between them. Izuku scans around his space, thankful that at least this time the lightning bolts didn't harm anybody or anything, although he probably glowed too bright that they still had to step away. Izuku. The ghost looks at them. He did it again, but nobody's hurt, thank Kami. Are you okay, ghost listener? Hisashi asks this time, but Izuku just stares at them silently. It unnerves them, the usually bubbly and noisy ghost suddenly so quiet. Rei-chan? Izuku? Hitoshi calls this time, voice breathless, breathing a little uneven. That's Izuku drawls out. That's me. He says thoughtlessly, eyes landing on the photo again. He's so glad it didn't get affected by his lightning. He feels like he'd crack just a tiny bit if the photo ends up damaged because of him. Yeah, problem child, that's you. Shoyuta softly echoes, slowly inching closer now that the green glow had started to mellow down. It's me, I'm Midori Izuku. He flinches when he hears the name leave his mouth. Then his eyes shoot up toward Shuta's, and if he was alive, he'd be crying so hard. But he's not, and his eyes hurt just right to make him feel imaginary tears. Sho-chan. Izuku cries out loud, standing up to bury himself between the hero's arms. Thank you. Of course. Izuku. Shoyuta sighs, wrapping his arms around the child. Hitoshi wastes no time to hug the boy from behind, and Hisashi's own eyes were watering at the absolute relief and gratefulness laced in Yurei's Izuku's trembling voice. They end up huddled like that for a few minutes, filled with Hisashi saying hushed reassuring words and Hitoshi's occasional sniffing. Shoyuta had to stop himself from crying along, although he can't hide the fond tears in his eyes. Izuku sounded so passive about his past life, but maybe there was a part of him that desperately wanted to know. Did anything hurt? Can you still handle seeing the rest of the families? Shoyuta asks quietly. They pull back to let Izuku speak. Nothing hurt. I want to see the rest of them. The dinner is interrupted by Katsuki suddenly choking on his food. Masaru quickly hands him a glass of water while Mitsuki stares at him in amusement. You good, brat? She asks. Yeah. Whatever, Katsuki coughs out, then a sudden squeeze erupts from his chest. It's so uncomfortable that he had to fist his shirt, as if that could help anything. Ow. Are you okay, son? Masaru worriedly asks, and even Mitsuki started looking alarmed. He curses again and again, the painful feeling of something so close to grief still clinging onto his chest. And then it goes away, like it never happened. What the F was that? Katsuki curses, breathless, looking up from his hunched position to look at his parents. The look of horror meets him, and he can't help but scowl. What? It's Mitsuki that speaks this time. Kat, why are you crying like that? She asks, horrified. Masaru only stares in utter worry and concern. I'm crying like what? Katsuki spat, wiping the back of his hand against his eyes before pulling back. His tears were black. Minutes later, it's Mitsuki who starts choking up, weeping out the same black tears Katsuki did a few moments ago. Then Masaru follows, Katsuki and Mitsuki staring at the third occurrence with growing fear. And Katsuki's smart, he knows he is. He knows that this whole DMN family is very healthy and they haven't had any contact from any outsiders and his parents' colleagues don't have any quirk related to this. Katsuki can only think of two people. He doesn't know how they're connected, but they could be, it has to be. He tells his mom exactly that, and Mitsuki gets the phone to call a certain detective. Maybe they could finally get more answers, along with a confirmation. Thankfully, Izuku seems to be willing to meet the Bakugas, which would make it easier for Shoyuta and the detective to handle. Izuku wants to meet them in his human form, and honestly, Shoyuta has no idea how it would go down. He kind of envies his husband for just going around and keeping the city safe today, but also kind of doesn't at the same time, remembering the amount of people approaching him during his patrols. Do you think they'd believe you if you tell them the truth? Hitoshi asks from the couch, watching Izuku's tiny ghost form spin around Shuta's figure playfully as he gets his boots on before leaving. They'd have to. It's okay, they're good at taking, shizzles anyway. Izuku says, using telepathy in his little ghost form. But it's not the same shizzle as meeting your best and only friend after 9 or 10 years and also finding out he's dead. Hitoshi deadpants, not caring if he looked like he was talking to air. Shoyuta doesn't mind, not really, they're used to communicating with Izuku like this when he's in that little ghost form. They've decided to tell the Bakugas the whole truth, they deserve it anyway, and Izuku had also reassured them that the family was good at keeping secrets. But even though they've agreed on that decision, Shoyuta still knows something was about to happen. He thinks he needs more coffee before he's ready. Come on, Shochan. I want to meet them already. Izuku whines in his head, spinning around giddily. I'm kind of nervous though. Change back to a human before we go, brat, Shoyuta chides, a little softly. Hitoshi watches his dad talk to literally nothing in amusement. You can do this. You know them the best, don't you? They watch as the ghost stops spinning to quickly turn into his human form, letting his feet touch the ground. Well, I guess, but it's been years. Let's go, problem child. Shoyuta says, turning around to head to their balcony. Izuku gasps in excitement, catching up to the underground hero. We're gonna go on the rooftops? Yes. Okay. Izuku turns to Hitoshi, who's already following them to wave them off, and hugs the taller boy before squeezing. Stay safe, Sochan. I think I should be telling you that, the purple-haired teen scoffs, but he's smiling. Ruffling Izuku's hair, he says, I'll call when I need to. Satisfied, Izuku nods his head before releasing the insomniac, finally turning around to join Shoyuta at the balcony. The heroes already crouched down on the railings, balancing perfectly. Izuku leans back on the railings before swinging his legs up, pushing his upper body to stand on the metal bars. Stretching his arms wide, he spins swiftly to turn around, and Hitoshi had to refrain himself from grabbing him and putting him down because he knows Izuku won't hurt himself like that. They see the sun cast a shadow against the balcony's ground, and honestly, they're not used to Izuku having a shadow at all. Well, small details. Let's go, Shochan. Izuku cheers, taking a leap to grab onto the balcony just above theirs. Izuku can't float in his human form. Hitoshi simply watches the two leap away from their apartment, eventually landing on the rooftop beside their building. The pair takes another leap and finally escapes his sight. Hitoshi shakes his head before returning back inside. The pair had stopped hopping on rooftops and eventually landed on the sidewalks leading to the department. Shoyuta notes a few people staring as they walk along. Some are either curious, confused, interested, or plainly incredulous, as if they couldn't believe that there's a kid with a large witch hat attached on his hood. Well, it's not like Izuku looks bothered, so Shoyuta leaves them be. It's also better now that they wouldn't suspect anything from the teen's gray skin, since quirks could be as strange as they could get, and they could just play it off from that. So that's another worry off of Shuta's shoulders. Once they arrive, some officers and detectives look at the unknown presence beside the underground hero. Izuku shuffles a little closer to Shoyuta, protecting himself from the uncomfortable attention. When they reach the door to Tsukachi's office, that's when Shoyuta feels a grip on his sleeve. Wait, I'm actually even more nervous now. What do we do if they freak out? What if Uncle faints? What if Auntie faints? What will Kaken do? Oh God, how would he feel about having a ghost, a dead friend? How do we tell them that Mom and Dad dash? Shoyuta cuts Izuku's rambling by putting a hand gently on his head. Kid, please calm down. We can explain it to them slowly, and when they finally get it, then that's when we listen to their decision, or what they want to do from there. Okay? Izuku intelligently answers. But what if we enter and they're already inside? I can go inside first. Shoyuta offers. Izuku seems pleased with the idea, his hands still clutched onto the hero's top, but at the back this time. The underground hero can't help but hope the Bakugas aren't here yet, but considering that this is about one of their long-lost family friends, his expectations are low. Detective. Izuku peeks from behind the hero, thankful for the height blocking him from whoever could be inside. Eraserhead. Izuku hears the detective greet back, along with chairs being moved, and his eyes widen at the indication of the Bakugu family. Eraserhead? Is that a hero name? A familiar voice speaks. It's rough and deeper than how Izuku remembered it, but it's familiar and he knows that tone. Apologies for not introducing myself properly before, Shoyuta drawls, but not impolitely. I am Eraserhead, an underground pro-hero. Anyway, going back to what we came here for, Tsukachi interrupts smoothly, we have only found one of the Midoriyas, and I hope that whatever we reveal in here stays between us. You can also meet the other people who knows about his current situation now, but that's more of your decision than mine. He explains. Izuku stills at the mention of himself, trying not to just show himself right away and do something stupid, like give Masaru a heart attack. Where was his enthusiasm when he first met Shoyuta? He does not know, but he really wants it back. Where is he? Is he okay? He hears the voice of Masaru, his uncle. As okay as he can be, Shoyuta responds. Izuku, come. He reaches out to place a hand on the ghost's shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. Izuku takes a deep breath in, subconsciously ignoring the sharp intakes of breath from the family inside. Shoyuta gives him a look, gently removing the hood from his head before ruffling his hair. You can do it, kid. Slowly, Izuku steps aside, the shy kid within him and his memories taking over as his eyes first meet Mitsuki's. The woman gasps at the sight of him, or Izuku probably guessed it could partly be because of the scar on his left eye, which was the first thing revealed from his face. He looks at Masaru next, and the man looks so close to tears that Izuku kinda wants to cry as well. Auntie, uncle. Izuku stutters, trying to calm down when Shuta's arm wraps around his shoulders. Zuku. Izuku's eyes had never moved so fast, immediately landing on the last person of the Bakugu family. He's staring at the ghost like he's seen a ghost. Izuku tries to smile, but it's shaky and quickly blocked when Mitsuki pushes through Shoyuta and engulfs him in her arms. Oh no, little broccoli, you're oh my god. Mitsuki cries, her hand buried deep into Izuku's bushy hair as the other pulls him against her. Izuku could feel the woman's whole figure shaking, and he finally wraps his arms around her. He feels another pair of arms around him, and he guessed it was Masaru, If he went by the way the uncle kept repeating words like it's really you or Izuku, Izuku, Izuku. They're both a crying mess now, but this time Izuku looks at Katsuki, their eyes meeting. For the past 5 years of his past life, Izuku had never seen Katsuki's eyes this shiny, this soft. Izuku smiles at him, and it's probably the blonde's last straw, because he finally breaks out of his trance and surges forward. Katsuki pulls his parents off of him before protectively wrapping his arms around the ghost. They stay silent for a while, everybody watching the two teens revel in each other's presence. Izuku had never felt even more complete during his afterlife. Then Katsuki slumps against him, and he hears the boy start to sniffle, before muttering curses that Izuku finds heartbreakingly amusing. You, Zuku, Katsuki pushes back, finally taking a look at the boy's face. How the hell are you not crying? I can't exactly do that. Izuku answers quietly. I hate to break the moment, but there are things we have to explain. Shoyuta tries to start. The Bakugo family finally starts to compose themselves once more, all three of them taking a seat while Shoyuta and Izuku stand beside each other. Katsuki sends them a calculating look, noticing the weird closeness of the pair. I think it'll be easier if we get straight to the point, Tsukachi sighs. If you would, I suggest bracing yourselves. This is classified information, which means the start of this conversation should not be discussed with outsiders. The parents nod their head quickly, starting to turn serious. Katsuki merely straightens a little, all three waiting for the detective to start speaking. Izuku is. Tsukachi pauses, suddenly having a hard time to find the right word. He turns to the ghost in statement, who looks extremely nervous. He's not exactly alive, not anymore. A tense silence fills the atmosphere, and Izuku could see just when it all sinks into their heads. Katsuki shoots up from his seat, a conflicted look on his face. Huh? What do you mean he's not alive? You're seeing him right there right now, aren't you? Izuku tries to approach the blonde, flinching when he WPS his head towards him. Why are you not denying him, nerd? Because it's true, Shoyuta says, right on the dot. If you would let him explain? He's right. This is my quirk, I guess, Izuku tries to say. It makes me, stay here after I die. You died? Mitsuki asks, her voice filled with horror. When? Shoyuta places a hand on Izuku's shoulder, trying to give the ghost as much comfort as he could. It's almost been 10 years. I don't remember how I died. That's what they're, trying to figure out right now. 10 years. Masaru repeats, gaping. Mitsuki was just staring at him, finally taking in the features of the boy in front of him. The scar, the gray skin, the dullness in his eyes, the weird coldness of his body temperature that she primarily ignored during their reunion. Katsuki was just staring at him. So you're dead? A ghost? Izuku avoids eye contact, scared of how they could react. Shoyuta gives his shoulder another squeeze before stepping up, speaking. Please know that Izuku had only started to remember you yesterday. His memories had been wiped out ever since he became a ghost, and the only way we triggered his memories were the photos we borrowed, Shoyuta says, all while pulling out the said photographs from his pocket before reaching out to Mitsuki, who quietly takes it from him. Both sides are in an extreme emotional state right now, please be aware. Izuku stares at the ground, fiddling with his fingers. The silence is even more intense now, but then Mitsuki asks another question. Something Izuku doesn't know if he could answer. If you're a ghost, what about Koko? Izuku almost looked at her in confusion, before remembering that Mitsuki actually calls Inko that nickname, and suddenly he's even more subdued than before. The silence was almost an answer enough for the Bakugo family. Izuku. What happened? Mitsuki asks this time, Masaru and Katsuki evenly silent. You don't have to answer, Izuku. Shoyuta reminds him, and while the ghost does appreciate it, he knows he can't keep this from them forever. When I remembered everybody, Izuku starts slowly. I remembered what happened to Mom and Dad on the day of the court counseling. I don't know who did it or how or why, because it's so vague, but they dash. HEH8.BLE, Stay away from him. HELBEUS.L. It's okay, baby. Mommy's alright. Run, Izuku, run. HOWANNOYING. Problem child. Shoyuta breathes out gently. Izuku shakes his head. They're gone. Izuku's words were merely a whisper. He remains oblivious to how his figure had flickered. I used to, not really care about my past. But now I want to find them, and then I'll make sure they pay. They won't know what's coming. Otusan. Okayasan. Yurei. Izuku flinches at the different name. He lifts his head up to see Shoyuta in front of him, his hands on Izuku's shoulders. Yurei, calm down. You're flickering. Ah, sorry, Izuku says, lightly patting his cheeks to snap out of it. I mean it though. I know. Shoyuta looks at him softly, as soft as he could for someone who has half of their face covered in capture weapon. Is he okay, Eraserhead-san? Mitsuki nervously asks, such a big contrast to the usual behavior Izuku sees from her. Shoyuta lets out a breath before patting Izuku's head. You can wear your hood if you want, he mumbles before turning around to answer the blonde. He's all right. Mitsuki nods her head, the worried look on her face mellowing a little, even more so when she sees Izuku reach out to pull his hood up, the adorable witch hat perked up on his head. She's been doing the talking for the three of them while Masaru and Katsuki watch everything silently. Tsukachi clears his throat. Are you okay, Yurei? I'm fine, detective. Izuku smiles gently, the detective nodding his head when the truth registers in his head. I know this is a lot to take in, but we still have more to talk about, Tsukachi says. Don't worry, it's more on what Izuku could do. As well as the precautions of his quirk and the people he's been staying with the past month, or well, for Izuku's case, the past 5 years. The tense atmosphere seems to lighten at least just a little bit when they're distracted with the next conversation. Izuku had been demonstrating all the things his quirk could do so far, while Tsukachi lets him lead and Shoyuta would add random remarks from time to time. The Bakugas are surprisingly taking it well, although they kind of doubt that would remain when everything finally sinks into them. The Bakugas had also informed Tsukachi of their incident the night before, alarming the three when they described what happened during their dinner time. What time did it happen exactly? Shoyuta asks, his face blank in concentration. Around 8 in the evening, perhaps, Masaru says. Why? Izuku gasps. That was around the time I took a look at the photos. Maybe that's connected? Tsukachi nods his head before speaking. That's possible. Izuku's quirk could cause the remembered person to shed black tears, but why? Maybe they're the tears I couldn't shed, Izuku whispers. I can't cry after all, or maybe it's just a random side effect of my quirk. My quirk is weird. Izuku told them all about how he first met Kokomitsuki, teared up at the coincidence before following Shoyuta, then meeting another pro-hero along with their son Hitoshi. Katsuki raises an eyebrow at that part, but shrugs it off eventually. Can they meet them? Izuku turns to Shoyuta, and the underground hero huffs. That's up to them, he says. Izuku turns to the family, eyes wide in expectation. Mitsuki lets out a wet chuckle before nodding her head. Of course, baby broccoli, Cat could use a new friend. I don't need a new friend, Katsuki retorts half-heartedly, looking away from Izuku's wide eyes. Whatever, I guess. We'd love new company, Izuku. Masaru smiles gently, a big contrast from the two blondes beside him. That's great. Can they meet now? Izuku cheers before looking at Shoyuta again. The hero looks exasperated but fond this time, shrugging. I can ask them, they'd love to. Shoyuta answers, pulling his phone out of his pocket. The pair looks oblivious to the audience around them. Tsukachi had let out a tired sigh before facing the Bakugu family with a smile. The parents smile back, but Katsuki has his eyes facing the ground. Everyone not so subtly watches the interaction beside the table with soft looks in their eyes, Mitsuki tearing up for the nth time when it sinks in that Izuku could possibly not live a normal life anymore. The kid acted just how he does when he was alive. He's so cheerful, always smiling whenever he could. Izuku's happiness is so contagious that it makes them feel lighter even if the current situation gave a heavy feeling on their shoulders. At least we can still see him, Katsuki eventually grumbles, catching the attention of his parents. The boy looks at them, red eyes fierce and protective. It's better than nothing. He continues, voice low. Are you okay, Kat? Masaru asks, hesitating. The blonde was acting a little unusual, even under the situation they were in. Mom? Dad? Katsuki turns to them, determination shining in his eyes. They startle at the names. Katsuki never called them like that. They had always been his old man and his old hag. I'm going to be the best demon hero, and I will find whoever the F thought it was okay to kill Zuko, auntie, and uncle. Masaru chokes on his breath, eyes wide in shock. Mitsuki could only stare at his son with pride. Smiling widely with a new batch of tears on her eyes, Mitsuki wraps an arm around Katsuki's head before ruffling his hair. Give them hell, brat. Kaken, aren't you excited? We're gonna meet So-chan and he's gonna meet you and you're both going to be great with each other. I just don't get why Sho-chan looks a little hesitant about it, but you'll also meet Hai-chan and then all of you are gonna be heroes and dash. Katsuki plants his palm on the ghost's mouth, trying to suppress a shiver when he meets Izuku's scarred eye. He also tries to ignore the boy's cold skin, another reminder that Izuku wasn't who he used to be anymore. But hey, Izuku's here again. He refuses to dwell on it further. Can it Izuku? He better be worth it. Katsuki grumbles, rolling his eyes. Izuku just stares at him quietly, although the ghost was still fidgeting from excitement. Slowly, Katsuki removes his palm when he deems Izuku quiet enough. They've arrived at the park, settling on a bench where the three of them agreed to meet up at. Izuku had told Shoyuta that he wanted to spend a few days with the Bakugas to catch up, and the underground hero doesn't find any logical reason to disagree. Izuku swore to be safe and to keep them safe, Katsuki swearing something along the lines of being able to handle himself. It's not like there'll be any danger with staying at home, so they make an agreement quickly. They've also made a group chat before they met. It's a chat with Katsuki and Hitoshi inside, but Izuku pops up with his messages sent by an unknown number that Katsuki once tried to call for giggles but ended up on voicemail, which later on they find out that calling the number made Izuku's lightnings a little bigger and eventually zapped Katsuki once. Neither of them called the number again. Izuku seems happy enough to see two of his close friends interacting, if only to share curses and sarcasm with each other while Izuku watches amusingly. But hey, they're all having fun at least. Today, they finally decided to hang out in person since apparently Izuku thought both of them needed to actually see each other to be friends. I miss So-chan. Was also another reason. Where's that fucker? Katsuki asks. Kaken, we're 15 minutes early, Izuku reminds, absolutely not fazed by the aggressive behavior. Knowing So-chan, he might arrive 10 minutes later. 10 minutes too long. The blonde rolls his eyes before relaxing a bit, slumping against Izuku's smaller. So, the tip of his hat buried in the blonde's spiky hair. They spend a few minutes just sitting there in silence, Izuku playing with Katsuki's fingers, massaging them a little to distract himself. They've talked about nearly everything they could after the few days at the Bakugas, as well as shed a few tears and curse a lot of words. And after the many times Mitsuki or Masaru tried to make small talk with him, Izuku just wants to stay in the silence once again after a while. Katsuki seems to understand. Hey, Kaken, Izuku mumbles to break the silence. I don't think I want to be a hero anymore. Why is that? Katsuki asks, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. Well, when I was just a ghost wandering around, guarding the other family, I kind of just realized right then that it'd be better if I just guided you all from behind, you know? Izuku softly pats the palm of the blonde's hand. Sure, there are still heroes that could pass, but at least I'm doing my best keeping two of them and another two more potential heroes alive, aren't I? Izuku sends a cheeky smile at Katsuki before continuing. And I'm a ghost that could do anything. You can't really stop me from quirk use since I'm dead, and I'd actually be dead if I stopped this ghost thing. At the same time I really don't know how to stop it. Well that fing sekes, Katsuki sighs. I get it. That doesn't fing mean you aren't a hero anymore though, you hear? You don't need the shitty license for being a self-sacrificial but. Dash? Izuku stutters, offended. I'm not self-sacrificial. That's a lie and you know it. Troll hair would agree. Katsuki scoffs, shoving the top of Izuku's hoodie down to cover the ghost's face. He cackles at the small yelp Izuku lets out. Whatever, Kaken, Izuku pouts, looking away from the blonde after fixing his hood back up. His mouth splits into a wide grin when his eyes make contact with a familiar shade of purple. So-chan's here. Effing finally! Katsuki curses, crossing his arms over his chest as they both stand up. Hitoshi sends the pair a small wave, letting out an oof when Izuku crashes onto him. Glad to see you too, Rei-chan, he says while wrapping his arms under Izuku's legs. You're lucky I train, or we'd be on the ground by now. You're late, Katsuki grumbles. Also, the hell is a Rei-chan? You're just way too early, Hitoshi rolls his eyes. And I'm sorry for not knowing his real name before a few days ago, Explodo boy. You call him Zuku, and he calls you Kaken. He calls you So-chan. And what the F else am I supposed to call him, troll hair? I don't know, Blasty, why's he the only one with the normal nickname? Izuku just stares at the pair with exasperated fondness in his eyes, sighing a little. They seem excited. Can we get ice cream? Both boys turn to the ghost in question unaware of the way their eyes soften just a little. Hitoshi shrugs while Katsuki huffs before walking towards the truck. You don't need any more, Zuku. Well, both of you can have ice cream for me. What the hell does that even mean? Katsuki asks. You're even noisier in real life. I shouldn't have come. Hitoshi mutters to himself, amusement in his eyes. What the F did you say, troll hair? Izuku loves having them around. This was way better than the group chat. In the end, they didn't get ice cream. Katsuki said they didn't have lunch yet and having ice cream was way too early. Hitoshi doesn't really care, but he enjoys antagonizing the blonde, so he does, and Izuku had to deal with both of them bickering as they walked around the streets. He subtly ignores the concerned and amused stares from the strangers walking past them. After all, who'd wake up to face the day and expect to witness a group of a ghost-looking cosplayer child, an insomniac whose eye bags could rival 10 people's combined, and an aggressive loud blonde with spiky hair, down the sidewalks? Surely not the strangers in question. At least they'll have something to share to their peers later on. Izuku seems content with continuing the flow of their conversations, the ones where Katsuki and Hitoshi were too tired and taking a break from having a go with each other. They don't mind Izuku's ramblings as well, the blonde missing the ghost's voice after not hearing it for years, while the purple head already used to Izuku's soft words being thrown out of his mouth effortlessly and settled enough with just listening to him ramble. Both of them covered on Izuku's sides, Hitoshi at the left and Katsuki at the right. When they bicker, they have enough inches over the boy's head. Katsuki removed the hood a few minutes ago just to glare at Hitoshi. Izuku has not put it back up ever since, just to make faces at each other. The strangers may be curious, but the circle has radiated a protective aura that made them back away when the three of them passes, the one in the middle oblivious to everything past the two at his sides. And they're at it again. I can't believe you're a dog person. Hitoshi's lips spread into a thin line, playfully looking bothered. Well, it kinda makes sense. You, dogs are great? Katsuki rolls his eyes. Then he turns to Izuku. Zuku, cats or dogs? Izuku stammers. Ever since I met Coco, my love for cats, exceeded expectations, he says. Hitoshi shortly cackles at the betrayed look on Katsuki's face. Eventually, they went inside a cat cafe nearby, much to Katsuki's dismay. All of the cats coming over to the blonde and rubbing themselves against his ankles. Hitoshi watches with an amused smirk before pulling out his phone, capturing the moment where Katsuki finally relents and starts petting one cat that suspiciously looked as fluffy as his hair. It's good blackmail material. Before they settle down, a waitress briefly comes over to take their orders and thanks them before leaving them alone once again. She did seem amused when she observes the cats around a hostile-looking blonde. Why do they like you so much? Hitoshi asks, petting a cat of his own. They like Kaken, Kaken's quirk makes him warm. Izuku answers for the blonde. The Katsuki in question curses under the pile of fluff. Hitoshi hums, then he turns to Izuku. Why do the cats like you? Oh. Well, before you met me I've been going to this cafe. Izuku perks up, lifting a cat up to let them wrap themselves around his neck. Then he lowers his voice, as if sharing a secret. The workers think this cafe is weird, since they see the cats gathered up sometimes by the counter and meowing at nothing. You have a thing for scaring people through cats. Hitoshi deadpants. Katsuki cackles at the side. You mean he's done it before? I witness it every night at 4 in the morning, Hitoshi sighs. The only thing stopping me from going back to my room is my need for food. And coffee. You're FING stupid, and also lucky that it's the nerd instead of some other mad poltergeist trying to kill you. Katsuki says, I'm still here? Izuku tries to intervene, fascinated at the fact that the boys in front of him are actually conversing without any bickering. And I haven't really met another ghost, so I don't think you have anything to worry about. It's probably just my quirk that's keeping me here. Cut that sheet out, nerd, that's depressing. Katsuki mumbles, his tone suddenly quieter. Sorry, Kaken. Izuku sighs. Katsuki rolls his eyes, and tries changing the topic. Speaking of quirks. Trollface, you never told me yours. Whatever quirk you have could probably never top Izuku's. They both see the way Hitoshi clams up, the hand over the cat briefly freezing before continuing again, a little stiffer this time. Nothing special. He mumbles. A short silence falls over the group. Katsuki staring at the boy with an unreadable look on his face. So-chan, Izuku calls when he realizes that Katsuki would probably not say anything, since emotions weren't his forte. When Hitoshi ignores him, he tries again. Hito-chan. The insomniac w's his head up to look at him, a soft blush settling on his cheeks. Katsuki lets out a snort in the background. Izuku smiles reassuringly. Come on, Hito-chan, Kaken may be a J-dash. Hey! But he's a cool jerk. Izuku continues. Hitoshi had never told Katsuki his quirk even during the days they spent talking in the group chat. Izuku didn't force him on it, and the blonde didn't pry about it either. But he's curious, and now that he saw how Hitoshi reacted to the question, Katsuki mildly understood the implications of it. DMN right I am, Katsuki huffs. Hey, troll hair, I don't give a DMN what your quirk is. I have FING explosions that could kill anybody and yet people think it's FING heroic, the dumbass. Besides, we literally have the nerd here, nothing could top his quirk. He's right. Nothing could be as crazy as my quirk. Izuku smiles, nudging the purple-haired boy on his shoulder. Hitoshi sighs, mentally cursing before finally speaking. It's a brainwashing. I can control them when they respond to me. Izuku reaches out to interlock his arm around Hitoshi's, letting himself be close enough to give the boy some reassurance. Katsuki raises an eyebrow at the insomniac, then he sighs. The F, are you moping about? Katsuki says. It's a cool one. He mumbles. Hitoshi stares at the blonde with wide eyes, before smirking. Izuku could notice how his shoulders relaxed, the tense line disappearing. Izuku's right. You're a cool jerk. F you. No thanks, I'm not interested in general. Hitoshi shrugs. Katsuki stares at him for a long time before he nods his head. Same. I actually talked to Dad about you. Hitoshi speaks up once they're now walking back to Katsuki's house. The F, are you saying about me? Katsuki asks. He said he could train you for the last month and a half before we go to Yurei. You know, we could be sparring partners or something. Izuku starts bouncing. Oh, I want to try to fight Kaken, too, he says. Ever since they talked about Izuku playing his quirk down once he starts showing up as a human, Shoyuta decided to train the ghost just so he could get used to another form of defense and offense tactics rather than relying on floating around and swinging his scythe out of the blue. Hitoshi and Izuku had been sparring partners since then, so a new fighter would be nice. You can fight. Katsuki asks the greenette, staring at him incredulously. Hitoshi snorts. Don't underestimate him, he's small but he can and he would kick your butt. It helps him a lot that he doesn't feel tired anymore. Izuku pouts. I've been watching Sho-chan and Hito-chan fight each other during their training. I was curious so I tried doing it on my own. I guess I learned half of the stuff that way. That's cool, Katsuki mumbles to himself, and then, count me in. Izuku cheers, jostling the blonde and the purple head around when he wiggles in glee, since his arms were clutched around one each of theirs. Hitoshi lets out a fond sigh while Katsuki cackles at the ghost's antics. The hag won't mind. She'll probably do anything to force me out of my DMN room. Katsuki says. And you'll finally meet Hai-chan. Izuku says. Who the hell is that? That's Pops. Or well, present Mike. Hitoshi answers for him. Oh, him, Katsuki shrugs. How the F, do you have two pro heroes as your parents? You curse a lot, Hitoshi huffs, then he awkwardly continues. They adopted me, my biological family didn't really take my quirk well, I guess. And now Hito-chan's happy while I fight off the other baddies from his school, Izuku grins proudly. You should visit sometime, Kaken. What? His DMN school? Katsuki asks. That place sounds like it SC Kiss to me, but okay. We can kick but when I get there. I meant at his house but the school works, too. So that both of us can keep the meanies away. Izuku smiles, the two boys shivering a little when it turns out a little mischievous than kind. What about you, Rei-chan? Hitoshi asks. You can't just teleport around anymore since we decided that your quirk would be psychokinesis. Where will you stay? I can stay at yours. Since Auntie would love to let Kaken leave the house, we could just tell her he'd come to hang out with us. Izuku says. Stop dictating my life, nerd. Katsuki retorts, but he doesn't deny anything. Oh well, I guess that's decided then, Hitoshi shrugs, looking ahead of them. Right on time. The house of the Bakugas appear at a few meters away. It's nearing the afternoon when they arrive. Hey Trollface, wanna come over? Katsuki suddenly asks. The hag wouldn't mind. Ah, does Explodo Boy like having me around? Hitoshi teases. Shut up. We can stay for a while. Come on, Hito-chan. Izuku shakes the purple-haired teen. Fine, I'm texting Dad. Hitoshi says while pulling his phone out. Izuku silently nudges Katsuki on the side, giggling when the blonde pulls his hood down before ruffling his hair aggressively but not without care. Hitoshi eventually puts his phone back in his pocket before watching the pair in front of him with amusement on his face. They're a weird combination, but a combination they liked all the same. Only bros, no hoes. Random number ghost. Thanks for having us over. Rei-chan keeps saying he might teleport back and I'm actually going to believe him if he did. Explosion God. Don't teleport, nerd. Leave me alone, I'm tired. Random number ghost. Oop, sorry Kaken. Oh right, it's almost 8 though. Let's go Rei-chan, let the prince have his beauty sleep. Explosion God. F you. I thought we agreed we weren't interested. Random number ghost. Come on Heidekin. Let's do it before I leave for patrol And both of you still have school tomorrow. By Blasty. Random number ghost. Sleep well Kaken. Explosion God. Whatever. Good night. Izuku listens to Hitoshi and Katsuki let out different tones of groans from the ground. Shoyuta stays standing beside him, huffing in amusement. Again, he commands. Stand up. Wait the dimmin' minute, hobo man. Katsuki grumbles on the concrete floor, trying his hardest to get up from the ground. Hitoshi remains unmoving beside him, looking at the high ceiling of the Yui training ground as if that itself had done something wrong to him. Why don't you train Rei-chan anymore? This is unfair. Hitoshi speaks slowly, trying to catch his breath. He already knows the answer. Because he already has unlimited stamina, and he's skilled enough as he is. He already knows the answer, but it doesn't mean he had to like it. Aren't you torturing them too much, Sho-chan? Izuku asks, looking at the pair in front of him with deceiving innocence. He's been doing that a lot. Even more ever since he hung out with Hitoshi and Katsuki for the past month and a fourth, to the point that he somehow got Hitoshi's traits of sarcasm and a little bit of harmless estism, while he and Katsuki shared the trait of being a little too intimidating, except Katsuki was more aggressive while Izuku leaned more on the quiet side of just glaring. Honestly, Shuta's a little impressed. He has a feeling Izuku's quirk helped a bit. That was if he faced strangers, though. Shoyuta could remember the time Izuku sassed Vlad and he had to stop a snort from coming multiple times. Around them, he nearly forgets how much of a demon Izuku could be since he's less snappy, if not gentle at all. Shoyuta had no idea they'd influence Izuku this way, but he might have kind of asked for it anyway. He secretly enjoys the fact that Izuku only acted like this in front of them, even if he was acting like Hitoshi and Katsuki combined sometimes. Well, at least he's not swearing. Enough for them to have a chance in passing the entrance exam. Shoyuta answers to bring himself out of his thoughts. Hitoshi, go train with your capture weapon. Bakugu, sparring with me. Yurei, scythe training. The Yurei name had quite have been their thing. Ever since Izuku assured the underground hero and the rest of his second family that he liked being called his ghost name, the family decided to use it on him since they were more familiar with it. Yes, sensei. All three boys exclaim, a little teasingly. Shoyuta rolls his eyes, not fondly, it's not. Shoyuta watches Katsuki fall into a stance, feeling a small burst of pride when he sees the effort the blonde was putting in his training. The two had been improving quickly, and Izuku might not be training for the hero course necessarily, but he insisted with going on the same training as theirs so he could protect them better. Shoyuta finds it amusing how oblivious Izuku was of the sheer protectiveness Katsuki and Hitoshi radiated around him, despite the ghost being undeniably more powerful than the both of them. 1 second of silence fills the whole training ground. His thoughts finally fall to a stop when Katsuki makes the first move, right when he hears the sound of Hitoshi's capture weapon whipping, along with a swish of Izuku's scythe at one training dummy. Yeah, they're already strong enough for the hero course. Another thing that's recently happened is Nizu talking to Shoyuta and Hizashi about Izuku. The rat had revealed that he'd seen Izuku multiple times, even when he still didn't reveal himself to the two heroes, all because Nizu had a different sense of sight than normal humans. Izuku ended up telling them that whenever he was catching up on Hitoshi's studies, he's been asking for some guidance from Nizu from time to time, and Shoyuta does not know how to feel about that. Izuku told them that though even if he did have catching up to do on Hitoshi's studies, he's actually been learning quite a bit of other information from the principal if he's able to finish Hitoshi's assignments on his own earlier than he intends to. He says that being a ghost was a lonely life, and Nizu may not be the only animal company he has, but Nizu was the only one who could talk. Shoyuta decides that he won't delve in deeper and leave the two alone. The damage has already been done. He could only hope that Izuku wouldn't consider taking over the world. Speaking of Yui-related things, the entrance exam was approaching. Shoyuta can see how much it's affecting the two boys, and Izuku could only do so much as give them comforting shivers. It works, and he lets his looser, sweeter side try to cheer them up, the usual humorous retorts mellowing down to soft mutters and encouragements. Shuta's glad Hitoshi and Katsuki had an Izuku to hold them back. All he had to do was look them with the eyes and eventually they give in to the ghost's requests. This is another one of those moments. What a sneaky problem child. Hyun, you need to rest. Do you want to die before the exam even starts? Izuku sighs shortly, voice heavily weighed with worry. The endearing nickname contrasted the tone of his voice, but somehow Izuku makes it work all the time. It's very impressive. Katsuki subtly tries to train silently, although it doesn't really work, especially when his quirk is literally explosions. Izuku jogs over to the blonde, slipping a hand into Katsuki's to stop the boy from letting off another explosion. The blonde turns over to him, a scowl on his face, but he's immediately met with dull wide eyes that makes him shiver a little, and he automatically lowers his other hand down, huffing. Izuku shoots a look at Shoyuta, his expression filled with such mirth and cheekiness. The breath. Shoyuta only sends him an approving nod. Only Izuku can stop somebody like Katsuki from training that quickly. Hitoshi's still a little stubborn, shooting one end of his capture weapon towards a dummy from a few meters away. Izuku leaves Katsuki alone to stop the purple-haired boy. Hito-chan, I'm going to tell Coco and Luna to leave you alone for the rest of the week if you continue like this. Oh, Shoyuta muses. That is absolutely cruel. And the horrified look on Hitoshi's face seems to share the same sentiment. You wouldn't. I can, and I will, Izuku continues, as if he didn't just threaten to take half of Hitoshi's life from him. You know they listen to me more than you. Fine, fine. The insomniac exclaims, and Shoyuta was nearly offended when the purple-haired boy decides to throw the capture weapon away from him as if it was the one who tried to take his cats away. He wasn't, it was close though. At least Izuku seems satisfied while Katsuki let out short tired cackles from the background. Shoyuta decides to speak then. Since the exam is held this Saturday, I'm deciding to let the two of you off for the day before the exam. Which means tomorrow will be the last day you train for it. Katsuki's cackles abruptly stop. What? Aren't we supposed to be training even harder instead of slacking off? It's not slacking off, I'd rather have the two of you tired and rested before the exam than tired and stressed, Shoyuta grumbles, and then he shows a vicious grin that makes them shiver. Besides, do you really think I'd let you slack off under my class? You're pretty confident with us getting to your class. Hitoshi scoffs, not unkindly. Are you saying you're not confident you'll get in? Izuku asks. The purple-haired boy stares at him silently before answering, I'm not exactly expecting it. Who cares about that? Izuku asks, an unusual serious tone in his voice. Whatever you're expecting, exceed it. If that's what'll make you feel satisfied, that's what you do. The three males stare at him silently, each face holding a different emotion of their own. Hitoshi has his eyebrows raised, taken aback. Katsuki was smiling a little too ferally, and Shoyuta could guess he had a small smirk on his face, proud and expecting. Izuku seems to snap out of his own trance before looking at all the three around him. What? Nothing. Hitoshi smiles. It's small and yet conveyed his fondness very well. You seem really determined even if you're not a participant. Izuku's eyes widen, perking up. That's because I'm just excited. And I know you'll do very well. I sure DMN hope so. Hitoshi huffs, then he yelps when Katsuki hits the back of his head. You're not gonna pass if you think like that, dumbass. Katsuki says. Bakugu's right, Yurei too. Shoyuta suddenly joins the conversation, the blonde preens a little at him. Don't let those doubts cloud your skills. Either way, if you fail, there's still the sports festival option. Izuku tilts his head when he sees the contemplative look on Hitoshi's face. There was still some of the uncertainty there. Of course, it's not easy to make it go away after having the first multiple years of his life have everyone against him just because of his quirk, but Izuku knows it's not as bad as it used to be like when he first met Hitoshi. If you don't pass, I'll kill you. Katsuki grumbles, his own way of saying stop worrying, you'll be fine. It cheers the purple-haired boy up a little, nodding his head sharply, now more determined. Hisashi will pick us up soon for lunch. Bakugu, your parents will be tagging along. Shoyuta suddenly changes the topic. Huh? Why are they suddenly coming with? Katsuki asks. Maybe they want to have lunch together before the exam? Izuku questions. Or they want to get to know Hito-chan more. What? Why? Hitoshi asks. They've met him already. Katsuki exclaims at the same time. Izuku sighs as if he was dealing with a toddler. Shoyuta snorts quietly. You know, Auntie, Kaken, I don't get why you're still surprised about that. Am not surprised, nerd. Hitoshi and Shoyuta watches with poorly disguised fascination when Katsuki nearly pouts at the smaller boy. Sure, of course. Izuku cheers a little too happily, like he's accomplished something big. He probably did. Eventually, they all pack up and leave the training ground. Occasionally, the group crosses paths with a few other UE staffs, greeting them along the way. It's already the first week spring break, after all, and only teachers and staffs who have work to do are around the campus. After their short checkup with Shizenji for any injuries and additional gummies, Shoyuta watches Izuku smile excitedly at them. Even if he doesn't exactly eat anymore, they were notified that Hisashi was done with his daily patrol and already meeting up with the Bakugas. They're in the middle of the halls when a familiar sound of heels walk towards them, Shoyuta could only breathe out a sigh. It's the exact same thing Hitoshi does. Katsuki was unbothered, and only Izuku looked delighted. Shoyuta, gremlins. The R-rated hero greets, immediately beelining towards Izuku to wrap her arms around the greenette. Izuku was never bothered by the hero's chest and focused more on the warmth Nemuri gave, which the R-rated hero seems to appreciate very much. Understandable, Izuku is just that lovable and he doesn't even know it. Izuku giggles. Hello, Nemi-chan. Hello, Green Bean, still as cold as always even with that hoodie. Nemuri casually remarks. They all decided not to say anything about it. None of the Yui staffs aside from Shoyuta, Hizashi, and Nizu knew about what Izuku's condition truly was, not finding it necessary to share something so big towards the people who doesn't have to be involved. She says gremlins and yet only gushes over the bean. Hitoshi mumbles, although he doesn't really look like he wanted to be smothered by the woman. Shoyuta can relate. I just came from outside. Zashi's car is parked, they're waiting for you, Nemuri says before turning to Hitoshi. And you, gremlin number 1, what? You want a hug from your sweet, sweet auntie? You, Hitoshi shivers. Nemuri doesn't seem offended, instead she's cackling. Save it for the ones who actually like it. Your loss. Then she turns to Katsuki. Hey brat, you're probably hungry, so I won't bother you for now. She teases. F off, Katsuki automatically retorts, but his eyes held the usual respect that they did whenever he talks to the heroes. Nemuri doesn't seem fazed, ruffling the blonde's hair instead as she ignores said blonde's grumbling. Zashi's car is waiting outside, I'd like to come with but I got some work to do. Shoyuta nods silently with a hum, at the same time Izuku says, maybe next time, Nemi-chan. Of course. The hero smiles, and then she swerves around to pass them. Alright, bye-bye now kids, I really gotta go, gremlins. You better do your best or you'll be stuck with me in 1C. That's a good motivator. Hitoshi mumbles thoughtfully and Katsuki huffs at the echoing laughter of the woman. Shoyuta lets out the nth sigh of the day. Let's go kids. The underground hero ushers, leading the 3 outside. How much do you think Auntie would scold Hito-chan for brooding? Izuku whispers to Katsuki. It's useless though, since he's sitting right between the 2 boys in the car. I'm not brooding. Hitoshi says. I swear to his purple effing pineapple hair she won't even have to ask about it, she'll know right away. Katsuki snorts. Language, listener. Hizashi interrupts automatically, even if they all knew nothing would stop Katsuki from swearing. The car ride was surprisingly silent. Hizashi's humming was the only sound that filled the ride and Shoyuta was trying to catch up on his sleep. It didn't take too long until the boys' fatigue caught up to them, and now they're both on Izuku's sides, using the ghost's bushy hair as their pillow, both knocked out from training. Said ghost was occasionally humming with Hizashi, oblivious to the fact that it makes the boys on his sides unconsciously shuffle closer even in their sleep. The voice hero sees it on the rearview mirror, smiling brightly at the trio. A few minutes later they finally arrive at their destination. The simple restaurant where they occasionally go to whenever they have an occasion. Izuku takes the time to jolt the 2 up awake by zapping them lightly, a cheeky smile on his face when Katsuki wakes up cursing everything around him. Hitoshi just looked confused. We're here. Izuku cheers, grabbing 1 hand each from them before squeezing it. They both subconsciously squeeze back, still half asleep. I can see Uncle's car from a few meters away. It's a good thing we didn't plan this the day before the exam, it would have been so crowded. We get it, nerd, Katsuki grumbles. Shut up already. Come on, wake up faster, we're getting out. Izuku rolls his eyes. Hito-chan, you awake? Yeah. I think. Hitoshi answers. Oh, we're here, right? He mumbles to himself, opening the door to his side to step out of the car, letting go of Izuku's hand for a while to let the pair inside follow him. Purple brat. Izuku. They hear a woman greet from the other side of the road. It's where Mitsuki and Maru had parked. Mitsuki had sped up over to wrap Izuku around her arms first, Masaru following behind to ruffle Katsuki's hair. It didn't take too long before Hitoshi got a hug of his own. You look a little tense today. Mitsuki raises an eyebrow at the insomniac. Katsuki and Izuku watches with amusement from the side. You nervous for the exam? I guess. Hitoshi intelligently answers. Kick their butts, kid. I know that look, so stop looking like that. If you can make Katsuki go home with new bruises every session, then you can pass that DMN exam. What the hell is that supposed to mean, hag? Masaru quietly greets Hitoshi's parents from the sides before ruffling Izuku's hair, all of them silently watching the trio's interaction. A few moments later, Masaru eventually starts to lightly pull his wife away before they all finally walk over and inside the restaurant. They immediately occupy 2 tables, the parents all together while the kids had a table of their own. Order whatever the hell you want, kids. Leave everything else to the adults. Mitsuki smiles widely. What about their diet? Izuku asks Shoyuta. Today's a cheat day. Hisashi exclaims. Go on, listeners. Hell yeah. Katsuki says, eyes wide in delight. Huh, is this what it's like to have a rich family? Hitoshi mumbles. Hito-chan, your parents are literally pro-heroes. Hai-chan has 3 jobs and Sho-chan has 2. Izuku quietly says. Oh, right. Katsuki simply huffs. What a dumbass. Also, I told you the hag would notice troll hairs brooding right away. Leave me alone, I'm not brooding anymore. I'm hungry. Hitoshi rolls his eyes, and then they hear Hisashi call over a waiter for the 2 tables. Said waiter eyes Izuku questioningly until Katsuki speaks. He can't eat food, his quirk doesn't allow it. The man nods slowly before walking away. The last time Izuku tried to eat or drink, he just ended up spitting it out. They don't want that to happen again. They spend the few minutes waiting to talk about whatever comes up in their mind. Sometimes they'd stay silent to listen in on the adults' conversation with cheeky smiles on their faces, and then Shoyuta would turn around to look at them with an exasperated look on his face, and they finally decide to let the man have his peace at least for tonight. Are you still gonna patrol later? You could take a break, you know. Hitoshi asks Izuku. Tell that to your dad. Izuku huffs. Even if he wasn't going, you'd still leave the apartment. The insomniac counters. I'll be fine. I told you crime lessons when it's midnight and I don't get tired. Izuku answers. I can call him in the middle of the night. Katsuki smirks. No, Kaken, I told you that's only for emergencies. Izuku rolls his eyes. Katsuki grumbles half-heartedly. He doesn't seem to be upset about it though. What do you guys plan to do this Friday? Hitoshi asks. I honestly think I'll just hang around at home. I don't feel like going out. Me neither, Katsuki shrugs. Probably spend it like how my shitty days used to be. Then let's go all out tomorrow. Izuku says. No, not you, Hitoshi groans. You're watching tomorrow or practice your scythe, or whatever. I want a day without Ray-chan slamming me to the ground. For the first FING time, I agree with troll hair. Katsuki turns to Izuku. Why don't you turn into a ghost and check up on the cockatoo or something? Maybe the hag and the old man too? I'm trying to get used to not using that form, and since I've told Hai-chan and all of you how to call me, then I don't really have anything to worry about. Unless if any of you do call me. Izuku rambles. The food arrives a few minutes after, finally silencing the boys once again as they start eating. Izuku decided to spend the whole time people watching from inside, making a few remarks about random outfits and one about a cat that decided to pad over to the other side of the glass and place their paw on it. Izuku felt like crying, even if he couldn't. He could make Hitoshi snap a picture though, so he does that instead. For the rest of their lunchtime, Izuku could just imagine all the various scenarios that could happen when both of his friends get into the hero course. He finds himself smiling softly at the 2 oblivious boys eating. When they get into the hero course. Not if. Katsuki catches his dopey grin later on, cursing the ghost out for being sappy as F, while Hitoshi silently continues eating his food. Even then, Izuku's still smiling at the end of it all. Izuku jogs from the purple-haired boy's bedroom, bringing Hitoshi's bag for him as the insomniac wears the gym uniform of Yurei. He and Katsuki had changed in front of Izuku and each other for enough times to not care about seeing each other without clothes. Hitoshi sends him a grateful look, His eye bag's more prominent than usual, and isn't that worrying? When Izuku returned from his patrol, Hitoshi was already preparing himself a cup of coffee in the middle of 5 in the morning, which wasn't unusual, but Izuku noticed the boy's movements being stiffer than usual, so he decides to offer the insomniac some comfort by sticking close to him, sending the boy some occasional shivers that Hitoshi sends him even more grateful looks for. Izuku figured this exam mattered to Hitoshi very much, as, for what he said, it would prove his worth, if not to the people who already knew his strength then to the world who kept shunning him down. Izuku's proud, he really is, but sometimes he just wants to smack the older teen and tell him off because proving himself to the world does not equal to spending the most of his time worrying in his head. Hitoshi's doing it right now, pacing around the apartment to let off some steam. It'll be a few minutes left till Hisashi and Shoyuta wake up, and the teen already cooked breakfast, but that's even more concerning because he rarely cooks breakfast alone. Hito-chan, I swear to Kami, you look dead. And that's saying a lot coming from me because I should be the one who looks dead. Izuku sighs, stopping the boy from walking around by cupping his cheeks with his cold hands, tilting the boy's head down to meet his eyes. What are you so worried about? Izuku asks softly. Instantly, Hitoshi melts against his hands, closing his tired eyes. Hitoshi stutters. I know you guys believe in me, I really do, but then, the voices just, I'm really nervous, that's all. Aren't you the one who always says not to care about what anyone else says? Izuku smiles teasingly, bumping his forehead against Hitoshi's, even if he had to stand on his tiptoes to do it. The purple-haired boy automatically wraps his arms around the ghost's waist. You should listen to yourself more, Hito-chan. I know it's not easy, but you know what's easier than dealing with those voices in your head? Hitoshi doesn't say anything, but he hums in question. Izuku answers. It's listening to our words because we know you better than those voices, and what we also know is that you'll do great, and you will pass, not because we expect you to but because we also know that you can. Have you seen the proud looks Sho-chan and Hai-chan give you? I do, even Kaken does. At his words, Hitoshi opens his eyes, letting out a soft sigh as he shivers a little at the eye contact. He then nods his head, letting out a small smile escape his lips. His arms around Izuku wrap tighter, causing the ghost to fall forward with a small sound before wrapping his arms around Hitoshi's neck. Izuku lets out a light chuckle when he feels the side of Hitoshi's head nuzzled against his. You're the best, Rei-chan, Hitoshi quietly says, his chest rumbling against Izuku's. I shouldn't be glad to meet you because that meant Dad almost died, but I'm really glad we met you. He bluntly continues. Izuku snorts. We would have been doing this earlier if I wasn't so scared to show myself. Izuku whispers into the silence of the living room, trying to give as much comforting coldness he could while Hitoshi gives him warmth. I think your fears were justified, Hitoshi mumbles before pulling away, patting Izuku's head gently. Now where are the old people? It's breakfast time. An offended squawk interrupts the gentle atmosphere, startling the ghost and the purple-haired teen. Izuku lets out a small bolt of lightning in accident and zaps Hitoshi in the process, the insomniac flinching again, although he's starting to grow accustomed to the feeling, as concerning as that sounds. Pops? Hitoshi exclaims, his cheeks going red while Izuku's go green when they also see Shoyuta beside the voice hero. Both of them are looking at them with the same look they had when they see Coco and Luna wrapped around each other on the bed. We're not old. Hisashi crosses his arms over his chest. Shoyuta only rolls his eyes before walking to the kitchen, not addressing the NTMT moment they just witnessed. Izuku appreciates it, Hitoshi looks like he does as well. You're older than us, so you're old. Hitoshi counters. Izuku giggles from beside the still half-asleep Shoyuta, who's now leaning against the ghost when Izuku steps closer to the underground hero. He's pretty sure Shoyuta was too out of it to realize he's doing it. He doesn't mind either way. That's not how it works, Toshi. Hisashi shakes his head. It really is though. Hitoshi huffs before taking a seat in the dining table. Shoyuta just grumbles quietly to himself when the two continue bickering. Izuku finds himself patting Shuta's head since he's currently taller than him with the hero sitting down. Good morning, Sho-chan. Izuku greets quietly, not wanting to add unnecessary volume to the background noise. Morning, problem child. Yuta grunts and starts eating, as if he didn't even realize he spoke. It's enough for Izuku, turning around to shoot a short greeting to Hisashi, only for the hero to greet back enthusiastically before continuing his banter with Hitoshi. Izuku giggles, walking to the cabinets to get the cat food for the felines, smiling wider when he sees Hitoshi finally calming himself down as he shoots out retorts to the voice hero. Coco and Luna pads closer to the ghost, both meowing as he fills their bowls on the counter. Izuku gently sets both bowls down before giving them a few pets, offering out soft greetings as they purr in delight. He stands back up, planning to get Shuta's capture weapon for the tired man when he makes eye contact with Hitoshi again. The purple-haired boy secretly sends him a gentle smile, a small thank you for what happened earlier. Izuku turns up smiling brighter to himself when he re-enters the living room with the underground hero's scarf. None of them find it in themselves to disrupt that wide smile. Took you both long enough, Katsuki huffs, stepping away from the gates. I'm starting to look like a demon creep with how long I took just standing there. And yet you'd still wait for us even if we arrived later, Izuku teases. Come on, Kaken. Shut up, nerd. There's a tint of pink on Katsuki's ears as Hitoshi snorts. Let's effing go. Where are you guys taking your tests? Are you going to be in the same room? Izuku asks. I'll be in room 1C, Hitoshi says. Gen Ed department. 1E, Katsuki tilts his head lazily. Also the Gen Ed department. Oh, that's great, you're in the same floor. In different rooms, though, Izuku hums. I also doubt they'd put you in the same grounds for the practical exam, since you know each other. Guess we'll have to pass on our own, Katsuki grins, and then turns to Hitoshi. Oi, troll hair, you better not start beating yourself up over nothing or I'll kill you. Yes, sir. Hitoshi sarcastically answers. Katsuki deems it a normal enough response, so he doesn't say anything more. They start walking towards the general education department, passing by a few other participants who eventually stare at them curiously when they walk through the hallway. Izuku looks around and loses count of how many times he made eye contact with strangers looking at him with poorly hidden confusion. Hitoshi sighs from his left side, feeling fidgety even if he was aware the attention wasn't focused on him. Katsuki, on his right side, glares at whoever stares for too long. Both of them stick closer to the small boy between them. Izuku tilts his head. Why are they looking here? Are we doing something wrong? Hitoshi snorts a little humorlessly, most probably from under all the anxiety. It's not every day they see a small teen dressed in a cute witch hoodie walking down Yui's halls. I think they have the right to be curious. Well, if they're FNG curious, they should just keep it to themselves. Katsuki grumbles. Oh. Izuku perks up. Should I pull my hood down? What if the others are trying to focus and I become a distraction? Nizu-sensei said I shouldn't be one if I plan on waltzing around the campus this school year. Who cares, wear it whenever the hell you want, nerd. Also what? The F, you mean waltzing around? Katsuki asks. Since when did you even get the time to talk to Nizu? Hitoshi asks, mostly thinking out loud. Nizu never sleeps. Izuku says ominously. A short moment of silence falls between the three males, and then Izuku decides to answer Katsuki's question. And he said as long as I stay around a staff, I'm good to go to campus anytime. It's not like I need any other restrictions, having my own files is unnecessary since I'm not exactly alive anymore, and they said I could help around by passing around messages or papers between teachers or towards the administration office so I have something to do. What about classes? Hitoshi asks. I'll be staying with Sho-chan most of the time, which means I'm technically staying in one, Izuku mutters. I told Nizu I didn't want the uniform because it looks tight and thankfully he agreed to just let me wear my current outfit. Which means we just have to pass the DMN exam so we can be together. Katsuki nods to himself, that should be easy. Hitoshi scoffs. Easy for you to say, Explodo boy. Before he can say anything else and pull Katsuki into another bickering session, Izuku reaches up to flick Hitoshi's forehead. None of those, Hito-chan. We're here. Hitoshi sighs. waving the massive door of room 1C as he tries to move past the topic. Izuku pouts to himself, earning a small hair ruffle from the insomniac. Hitoshi didn't really look like he was doubting himself this time, so Izuku lets it slide. I'm going in by Blasty by Ray-chan. Hitoshi bids farewell, his hands still on Izuku's hair while the other punches Katsuki on the arm playfully. He lets both of them go before putting a hand on the gigantic door. Good luck, Hito-chan. Izuku smiles. Kill him, troll hair. Katsuki smirks. The purple-haired boy nods before sliding the door open, ignoring the looks other students were giving him before closing the door behind him, leaving Izuku and Katsuki standing outside for a few moments. Let's go, Zuku. Katsuki starts walking away and towards the direction of room 1E, leaving Izuku to catch up beside him. Are you nervous, Kaken? Izuku asks, swaying his arms to play with his sleeves. Hito-chan was pretty out of it earlier, I'm glad he's fine now. I'm not fucking nervous. And troll hair should know his worth, 'cause I know Dimon well he'll kick butt in the exam later, Katsuki answers. Then he turns to glare at Izuku. Do not tell him I said that. Izuku raises both of his arms in mock surrender, laughing lightheartedly. Okay. Room 1E was not that far from 1C, so it only took a few minutes for them to get there, and while the duo was short on one boy to walk with, Katsuki just glared even harder towards the curious strangers to compensate for Hitoshi's lack of presence. Izuku just rolls his eyes at the blonde. Apparently it wasn't his witch hat that caught a lot of attention since Izuku already pulled it down. What was it then? You're scaring them, Kaken. Izuku sighs. You would be as well if you keep seeing creepy extras staring at your best friend. Katsuki scoffs, deciding to put an arm around Izuku's shoulders before pulling him to his side. He's being protective. But Kaken, you already have to go inside, I can handle myself. Izuku says. They're eventually gonna leave with you, they're also participants after all. Where the hell are you gonna go then? Katsuki asks. I'll be staying at the teacher's lounge. Come on, Kaken, get in. Izuku rolls his eyes. Katsuki eventually relents and releases the ghost from his hold before reaching out to pull the hood behind him and placing it on Izuku's head. Katsuki rolls his eyes before turning around, sliding the door right away before stepping in. Good luck, Kaken. Izuku beams. He doesn't miss the slight smirk on Katsuki's face as he looks at him over his shoulder, sliding the door back closed on him. Not wasting any more time, Izuku turns around to skip across the hallways and smoothly avoids a few bunch of people trying to approach him. He nearly wished Katsuki and Hitoshi were here, maybe they were right to intimidate the others. Izuku really wished Shoyuta was here, too, or Hizashi, but they're both busy handling other participants. It's like he's alone all over again, but he knows he isn't. He eventually grows tired of the people not taking the hint, and bursts a sudden aura of darkness as his face slacks to look colder than usual, letting his smile slip and make his dull eyes more prominent. He's satisfied when people freeze in their steps, taking a few steps back to give him the space he very much needed. It's wider than normal, but he doesn't really mind. When he arrives at the teacher's lounge, a few other staffs who are done handling the previous batch of examinees are sitting around, greeting the honorary Yamada Aizawa member when they see him enter. Oh, hello, Izuku. 13 greets enthusiastically. How are Shinsukuin and Bakugukuin? They're doing great, Kuros-chan. Izuku returns the energy. Hito-chan was a bit nervous before we came, but he eventually came around. Kaken was confident as usual. The space hero voices out a sound of understanding. Bakugukuin has every right to be confident. And Shinsukuin will do very well. I hope he doesn't doubt himself too much. We're working on it, thank you for your concern, Kuros-chan. Izuku smiles at them. They might as well have the concern of every staff in Yui, dearie, Shizenji interrupts. I have a feeling they'd get themselves in trouble the most among Aizawa's future class. Please tell them to lessen the amount of times they go to the clinic when the school year starts. They listen to you the most. I'll always keep an eye on them, Chio-san. Izuku smiles, receiving the nurse's own in response. What a kind young man. Never change, dearie, Shizenji sighs, giving Izuku's cold hand a pat. They're all lucky to have you. Izuku feels the familiar feeling of green creeping up to his cheeks, smiling shyly at the nurse in front of him. He knew Shizenji meant more than what she just said. She wasn't supposed to be aware of Izuku's condition, but they had eventually told her about everything when she kept questioning why the boy never got any bruises despite knowing that Izuku trained with the 2 other teens. In the end, Shizenji made Izuku the one to watch over them in case they tried to hide any injuries. She didn't have to. Izuku would have done it either way and give them the scolding that Shizenji would have. I'm lucky to have them, too, Chiyo-san, Izuku mutters softly. That's why I'll do my very best to keep them safe whenever I can. Good morning. Izuku greets when he enters the room. Kin grunts a little warily in reply while Shuta's eyes soften a little. Hello, Izuku-kun. Nizu greets from his chair, giving a small wave. Come, the exam's about to start. Yamada-kun is about to finish explaining the rules. Who's going first? Kaken or Hito-chan? Izuku asks. Bakugu's going first, sit down Yurei. Shoyuta nudges a wheeled chair towards him, and Izuku quickly settles before staring at the screens in front of him. Wah, I'm so excited. I know Kaken would do great, but maybe I could catch on to a few other interesting quirks, too. Izuku mutters to himself, rubbing his sweater paws together. It's starting. Nizu cheers, clapping his paws together as the gate of ground beta opens in the cameras. Izuku stares in silent confusion when nobody dared to run forward, not until Katsuki started sprinting over towards the entrance. He hears Hizashi exclaim something along the lines of battles not having any countdowns before all the other students started to run along inside. Izuku watches with fascination when he sees multiple quirks being displayed as everyone tried to gain as much villain points as they could. Occasionally he checks over to see Katsuki either blasting a robot's head off or harshly pulling another examinee away from danger. It's still considered as rescue points, much to Izuku's amusement. He also stares wide-eyed when he sees random people suddenly being pulled away by an unknown force, and he assumed the culprit had an invisibility quirk, seen from the floating gym uniform passing around. Izuku wonders if this was what it looked like to some of his peers when they dealt with their first encounters with him as an invisible ghost. Izuku takes in more of the less flashy quirks, like the redhead hardening himself before pounding his fists onto the robots to make the metal chipped to trip them down. It's fascinating to see people like them working harder to gain their own points. He lets out sounds of delight and amazement, unaware of the 3 Yui staffs behind him staring at him occasionally as they discuss over the students they plan to take into their class. Kaken's getting a lot of points. Izuku mumbles to himself, staring in awe at the drone following the blonde around. Kin groans. You take him, Aizawa. I already got one potentially annoying blonde, you take the other. If you say so. Shoyuta says, seemingly satisfied with Katsuki being in his class. Look. Teamwork, teamwork. Izuku points to a screen, showing a girl with pink skin shooting some liquid that caused some parts of the robot to melt acid. Behind the redhead from earlier, who's currently trying to assist an injured examinee away from the chaos. I love seeing competitors work together, talk about sportsmanship. HN. Shoyuta grunts, contemplating. I've read the files, they came from the same middle school apparently. So cool. Izuku exclaims. I wonder how Hitoshi's doing. Are they waiting in their rooms? The exam for this batch would end soon. His batch would be next after a small reconstruction break. Nizu answers. Izuku only nods his head, turning back to the cameras to watch the rest of the exam pass by. A lot of people had become injured, others more than some, and the once clean and proper streets were filled with smashed and detached pieces of metal scattering down the road. The examinees focused more on treating themselves right now, while the less injured people continued hunting down the few remaining robots. Izuku takes a mental note to go to Shizenji later on and possibly assist the nurse in treating the examinees. Thank you, dearie. You're free to go back to Aizawa, you still have another friend to watch, don't you? I can handle the rest myself. Chiyo says before patting the boy's cheek, causing the ghost to giggle. It makes the nurse smile a little softer. Of course, Chiyo-san. I just wanted to check on Kaken on the way as well. Thank you for your hard work. Izuku smiles before turning around, bumping fists with Katsuki, who's sitting on one of the floor mats, before completely departing from the clinic. Chio watches with mild amusement as Katsuki shoots a glare at every awestruck examinee in the room, internally chuckling when each said examinee immediately schools their expressions, turning away from the door. Sometimes she wonders if Izuku had another quirk that lured a lot of attraction. But every time the thought passes through her head, she suddenly thinks of Izuku's naturally kind and approachable personality added with the ghost's cute outfit, and concludes that maybe he didn't need a quirk to do that after all. Hito-chan looks nervous. Izuku frowns, watching the screen as Hitoshi quietly fidgeted with the capture weapon around his neck. It's a replica of Shuda's, which had been approved by the school. He'll be fine, Shoyuta says, and since Izuku knew better than to doubt the hero's words, he finds himself completely believing him. It's not like he didn't know that anyway. When the alarm rings and the gate opens, this time Izuku isn't really surprised to see Hitoshi get a head start. They've both been trained by Shoyuta, and one of Shuda's life lessons were that during your battles, opportunities won't wait for you. Instead you run in and make them happen on your own. Izuku feels immensely proud when Hitoshi decides to use his capture weapon to hop onto one of the rooftops, using his well-earned parkour skills to hop along the buildings as he approaches the first robot he sees. The smile on Izuku's face could practically rival the sun as he watches Hitoshi jump on top of the robot, suddenly whipping out a piece of metal, a pipe. Where did he get that? To stab the top of the machine's head with heavy impact. Izuku whps his head to stare at Shoyuta with wide eyes, mouth opened and forming an O, the pride literally leaking out of the ghost's face. Shoyuta looked even prouder, a smirk on his lips as he watches the screen showing his son. In some moments, Izuku had to pull himself to watch other examinees and tries very hard not to listen into the conversation going on behind him. Izuku doesn't want to hear anything and accidentally blabber it out to his best friends, and the fact that he was able to keep the robot part of the exam a secret from the two was already a mystery in itself. Izuku does not want to do that again. He watches as a boy with a tape quirk swings among the buildings, some robots sticking to the tape before he maneuvers around so he's able to pull the robots to collide and crash with each other. Izuku finds another examinee that had vines for her hair, extending them to incapacitate the robots around her, occasionally to pull a few other teens away from danger as well. When he checks on Hitoshi again, he finds himself smiling wide. Hito-chan's getting a lot of points. More of them are rescue points too. Very heroic indeed, Nizu grins. Now what will the other heroes do when their lives are now in apparent danger? Izuku froze, turning to the principal to see his paw hovering above a giant red button. Sensei dash. He's too late. The stoat had already pushed the button down, causing the whole city of ground beta to shake in its place. Everyone in the cameras are visibly confused and alarmed, the others starting to accompany each other as they start to move away from the buildings to avoid collapsing rubbles. Izuku can only watch in slight horror. He knows Nizu won't cause too much danger just for the exam, and he knows the examinees are smart enough to see a losing battle. But unfortunately, some other participants are less lucky, the ones who are closer to the gigantic zero-pointer while also injured in a way. His eyes mostly focus on Hitoshi for now, only to see the purple-haired boy's location being farther from the zero-pointer, pulling another examinee who has a silver belt with a golden ring in the middle, right on top of his stomach. Izuku guessed it had something to do with the boy's quirk, but he doesn't think about it too much. He's relieved that Hitoshi's not too close from the executor, so he moves on to the other cameras near the robot. Izuku scans the screen quickly, a lot of them covered with dust and smoke, but he sees a lot of examinees doing their best to run away. At least he doesn't have to worry about the zero-pointer hurting them. Izuku looks a little closer, just to make sure everyone was running away. And then he sees it. Or rather, he sees her. There's a girl stuck under a huge piece of rubble, looking a little green and a whole lot more panicked as she tries to claw her way out of the situation. Izuku turns to Shoyuta in alarm, and finds the underground hero just as concerned as he felt. Even Ken was tenser than usual as he stared at the same screen. Nizu-sensei, there's a girl. She's stuck there. Izuku gestures frantically. Everyone already ran away aside from her, and the exam's ending already, Please turn off the executor. I believe I see the girl you are pertaining to, Nizu hums, not even a tinge of worry in his tone. He sounded challenging instead. Izun, give me one more valid reason to stop the zero-pointer and I shall do as you say. It could possibly kill her, sensei. There could be witnesses among the examinees and it could lead to the media talking about it all week, plus they could twist the story and make it sound worse than. Then whatever could sound worse than an examinee's death. You wouldn't want to tell the girl's parents about her death because of an exam in your school, would you? Izuku stares at the principal intensely, but he's not afraid. This is him talking to the principal, there is nothing to be afraid of. Nizu won't find any logical reason to challenge him using the people he loves against him, and he knows he's making a lot of points in his argument. Nizu wouldn't risk a life of another potential hero, and he wouldn't risk the reputation of Yui either. With those thoughts in mind, Izuku mentally sighs in relief when he sees the smile on Nizu become just a little bit approving, even if Kenor Shoyuda could see it. Very well, Izuku-kun. Nizu hums, placing his paw back on the red button, then he pushes it again. The screens show the zero-pointers stopping themselves from moving further, which meant that the girl was still alive, only injured from and stuck under the rubble. A mildly surprised squawk came from the speakers before Hisashi's voice came to speak. Time's up, examinees. Drop everything and gather around the streets and we'll have Recovery Girl kiss your pain away. Rock on. The following silence stretches for a few moments before Izuku shoots up from his seat. Oh, I'll check on Hito-chan and help Chio-san with the others, he says before walking out of the room, unaware of the three teachers watching his back as he leaves. Eventually, Ken asks, did you just let a kid convince you? You wouldn't have stopped that thing. Oh well, what can I say? Shoyuda and Ken watches the smile on Nizu's face turn a little soft. Izuku is a very endearing child. Izuku jogs to the clinic, hurrying to check up on Hitoshi and definitely the brown-haired girl as well. It's not hard to tell that she was one of the most, if not the only one, undeniably injured from the exam. He winces when he remembers the way her leg was stuck under the giant rocks. That must have SEKD. Zuku. Izuku turns his head to see Katsuki waiting by the clinic, accompanied by more students laying on mats around them, probably due to the clinic itself being cramped enough. The blonde wasn't wearing the gym uniform anymore, much to the other examinees' confusion. Where's Hito-chan? Izuku asks. I was waiting for you, he's inside. Katsuki says, wrapping a protective arm around the greenette before they walk inside. They're met with even more students, others taking a nap while some are conversing with each other, albeit a little awkwardly since they're just trying to make small friendships. Izuku scans the whole room for a purple-haired pineapple, perking up when said pineapple is playing with his phone. How he got that, he didn't know, on one of the beds. Hito-chan. The ghost calls, catching a little bit of attention, especially the boy itself. You did great. He adds. I don't think so, Hitoshi sighs, and then he continues before Katsuki could start berating him. And it's not because I'm doubting myself. I don't think I got enough villain points, I was too busy bringing others away from danger. How many villain points did you get? Izuku asks, genuinely curious. I wasn't able to check your score since I got too focused on the zero-pointer. I got somewhere more than 40, Hitoshi mutters. Isn't the passing grade above 45? I nearly had it. It is, and you nearly did, Izuku smiles brightly, and then he pulls Katsuki closer to both of them, his voice falling into a whisper. But have you heard of the rescue points? Katsuki lets out a confused noise while Hitoshi's eyes widen. Izuku continues speaking. I've been watching with Sho-chan, and Kaken got a very high score. I might have not seen Hito-chan's in the end, but he was already gaining a steady pace towards the passing grade. I know you'll pass. You knew all along? Katsuki exclaims, although it thankfully came out as a loud whisper, as ironic as that looked. Well, I can't just tell that to you guys. That'll be unfair for the others, Izuku pouts, and then he smiles. But you passed, didn't you? Hitoshi suddenly pulls the ghost closer to him, pulling out a small yelp that may have made a few nearby examinees flinch in shock. Hitoshi's hands were shaking. Oh my god, I'm an... I love you more and more every day. He rambles. Izuku lets out a bright giggle. Quite bold of you, Hito-chan. Thing sap, Katsuki snorts, and then he roughly but not unkindly ruffles the greenette's hair. This means we have a guaranteed spot in 1A, 'cause that demon hobo ain't gonna let us go that fucking easily. More like he's stuck with us forever. Hitoshi chuckles wetly. What else do you know that we don't, you nerd? Katsuki asks, leaning away from the two. Don't tell me you also knew they were gonna be robots? Izuku, finally released from Hitoshi, stares at the blonde silently with wide, overly innocent eyes. The pair in front of him both perk up in realization. I'm actually here to help Chiyo-san after I checked on Hito-chan, so I'll just go. Izuku trails off after the last syllable, not wasting any more time to avoid the incoming attack from Katsuki, rushing away when he hears Shizenji approach after healing a T-No. It's the brown-haired girl. She's watching the scene, looking a little interested. Bakugu! Stop disrupting the others, young man, they're resting. He hears Shizenji scold the blonde, followed by muffled grumbling. Izuku ignores them and walks closer to the girl, smiling kindly at her when her eyes widens as she realized that he was approaching. Instantly, his soft demeanor subdues itself just a little. Hey, saw you got crushed under the rubble earlier. I hope you're okay? The girl sputters, the blush on her cheeks turning even pinker. I'm fine, thanks for asking. But, you don't look like an examinee. Oh right. Apologies, I didn't take the exam. I watched it. Izuku clears his throat. Call me Izuku, it's nice to meet you. Uraraka Ochako. Likewise. Uraraka tilts her head, a little confused despite her cheery response. Izuku can't blame her, it's not every day you meet someone who wants you to call them by their first name already, after all. I'd rather like it if you call me by my given name, everyone does, if that's what you're wondering. Izuku adds. Oh sure. Uraraka nods. Should I be asking why you watched the exam when only the staff should be able to? Actually no you shouldn't, Izuku answers easily with a small smile. It's a secret. Okay. Uraraka trails off, blinking at the boy. You came to check up on me, right? Well, I'm fine now. Recover Girl is a really good healer. Thank you for your concern. Of course. I'll be heading off to the others now. I hope I see you again, Uraraka-san. The ghost greets before bowing. Me too. Uraraka smiles, returning the gesture. Izuku sends a small smile before turning around to head towards the medical supplies to get some equipment to help the other students waiting outside. He passes by Hitoshi and Katsuki again, smiling cheekily when the blonde bids farewell to the purple-haired by bumping their fists together before walking along his side. Izuku and Hitoshi waves their hands before the greenette heads towards the door. Chiyo-san, I'll be helping out again. Izuku tells the heroine, receiving a pack of gummies from her in response. Thank you, dearie, hand these to them while you're at it. Shizenji says. Of course. Let's go, Kaken. The blonde lets out a grunt before following him out of the clinic. Hey, Uraraka looks up to see Hitoshi walking towards him. Ray went to you earlier, I'm pretty sure it's not for no reason. Did anything happen? Uraraka vaguely remembers him as the purple-haired boy Izuku was talking to earlier, along with the blonde. Ray was probably Izuku, she thinks. He doesn't seem to be injured anymore, although he did look very tired. He saw me stuck under some rubble and very close to the zero-pointer. He said he came to check up on me. She explains, amusedly noting the obvious protective glint in the teen's eyes. Ah, the teen winces, suddenly looking very empathetic. You're okay now, right? Yep. Uraraka awkwardly answers. And then she asks, out of curiosity. Is he your boyfriend or something? Are the three of you dating? The boy huffs before raising his eyebrows. And what if we are? Uraraka's eyes widen, before she finds herself laughing. That's cool. Well then, lover boy, I think you have to keep a close eye on, like, everybody in here and probably those outside as well. Izuku's cute, and I think everyone shares that sentiment. She says. The tired-looking teen shifts his eyes to everyone else in the room, only to find them looking away cautiously or wearing some disappointed looks on their faces. Then the boy looks back at Uraraka, wearing a smirk on his face. Izuku won't even spare a glance at them. Trust me on that, he says, his words only for her to hear. Hey, you're actually cool, I'm Shinso Hitoshi by the way. Uraraka chuckles again. You're cool as well, Shinso. I'm Uraraka Ochako. They both exchange approving smiles before the teen excuses himself to leave, not without telling her that he's expecting to meet her again. Uraraka thinks over his words, looking at her hands silently. If she actually passed the exam, then she's sure to have 2 potential friends on the first day. Guys, I just basically told a potential not stranger that the 3 of us are dating. I'm pretty sure everyone else who doesn't know us is convinced. What? What the F-troll hair?